Chapter 62 Two Entrances. The hero party and I proceeded to the entrance of the Katarov dungeon without delay. Oh, before we enter the dungeon, there's something I'd like to tell you. I remembered something and stopped. What is it that you want to convey? Holy Knight Canaria stared at me with sharp eyes. I couldn't recall doing anything wrong, so why was she looking at me with such an intense expression? Well, you see, this Katarov dungeon actually has two entrances. One is the entrance right in front of us, and the other is a teleportation circle that leads to the depths of the dungeon. The truth was that there was another teleportation circle that allowed free movement between the inside and outside of the dungeon, as I had learned from the vampire Judite in the past. However, by the time I heard about it, that circle had already been destroyed. It's possible that it hadn't been destroyed yet in this time period, but I didn't think there was a need to provide this extra information, which could potentially cause confusion. So, I entered the dungeon using the teleportation circle to conquer it, not the entrance, which is why I'm confident about the structure of the deeper parts of the dungeon. However, I have no knowledge of the shallower levels near the entrance. Therefore, I wouldn't be much help when it comes to guiding through the shallower levels. I had been hired by them as a guide due to my familiarity with the Katarov dungeon. However, as a victim of false accusations, I was teleported to the depths of the dungeon using a teleportation circle, so I had no way of knowing what the original entrance and its surroundings were like. Hey, what do you mean you can't guide us? If that's the case, then there was no point in hiring you. Holy Knight Canaria shouted at me. Certainly, not being able to guide was a failing as a guide. I shouldn't have agreed to this so easily. Canaria, calm down. I'm sorry for overreacting, Your Highness, Canaria replied, her tone more subdued. Kiska, thank you for the information. No, it's really not that big of a deal, I replied. Hero Eligen not only didn't seem upset but even thanked me. He had a generous demeanor, looked handsome, and it wasn't surprising that such a person was chosen as a hero. First, what we need to consider is which route the demon lord used to enter the dungeon, the hero said, resting his chin on his hand. Canaria, there was no testimony that the demon lord used the entrance to enter the dungeon, right? The hero continued, starting a discussion with Holy Knight Canaria. Yes, I gathered information from the villagers, but I couldn't obtain any such testimony. In that case, shouldn't we consider the possibility that the demon lord used the teleportation circle to enter the dungeon? Certainly, that possibility is quite high. Alright, we should use the teleportation circle to enter the dungeon as well. Kiska, can you guide us to the location of the teleportation circle? It seemed they had reached a conclusion to use the teleportation circle to enter the dungeon. Using the teleportation circle to enter the dungeon means we won't be able to easily exit, are you sure? We'll be fine. We may not look like it, but we're strong. Indeed, it was an unnecessary concern. They were heroes and their party. They must be a stronger group than any other adventurers. All right, I'll guide you then. I nodded and led them to the location of the teleportation circle. With this teleportation circle, we can go to the depths of the dungeon, right? Yes, that's correct. In that case, shall we all enter the teleportation circle simultaneously? Under Hero Eligen's command, all 6 of us stepped onto the teleportation circle. Simultaneously. In an instant, the teleportation circle emitted a dazzling light, enveloping us. The next moment, we had completely disappeared. It seems like we safely arrived inside the dungeon, I muttered while observing my surroundings. Dungeon-specific walls came into view as expected. It looked like we had been teleported to somewhere in the depths of the Katarov dungeon. Huh, I had a reason for muttering this. The teleportation circle was activated by all 6 of us together. However, there was no one else around. It seemed that I had been left behind, and I was alone. Chapter 63 It was boring. What happens when multiple people step on a teleportation circle? I had always thought that when multiple people stepped on a teleportation circle, they would all be teleported to the same location. In fact, I assumed that experienced individuals like the hero party would also assume that when they all stepped on the teleportation circle, they would be teleported to the same place. Well, this is a bit of a predicament. Being alone was unexpected. I had to figure out what to do next. Growl. I heard a growl. Looking ahead, I saw a drooling, armored bugbear. That's right. Regardless of the irregular situation, what I had to do remained the same. I'll defeat the enemy in front of me and find a way to get out of here alive. Yes, that much hadn't changed at all. At the moment, I had level 3 in swordsmanship, level 3 in provocation, and the blazing sword. With this, taking down the armored bugbear wouldn't pose much of a problem. The real problem is that I have no idea where I am right now. After defeating a third bugbear, I muttered this thought aloud. I vaguely remembered the first time I entered the Katarov dungeon, I had fallen into a trapdoor that led to a room full of these armored bugbears. If I followed the same route I had taken before, it should lead me deeper into the dungeon. However, this time, the location where I arrived was quite different, and everything looked unfamiliar, no matter where I walked. It's a fork in the path. Continuing down the corridor, I came to a place where the path split in two directions, left and right. Should I go right or left? Well, I guess I'll have to choose based on my gut feeling. So, I chose to go right. There was no way to know which path was the correct one, so I had to rely on intuition. I kept walking, encountering a few groups of monsters along the way, and then... oh, I fell into a pitfall. I'd seen this situation before. Below me, there were many sharp spikes. Luckily, I had been cautious of pitfall traps and had managed to flip my body in midair to avoid the spikes. When I got back on my feet, a hidden passage had appeared in my field of vision. I think this is the room where, if I remember correctly, I'll get a skill in exchange for being attacked by a large number of armored bugbears. How many times did I die last time trying to clear this room? I must have died nearly 500 times before finally making it through. It's nostalgic, I thought as I continued forward. It's this room, I said when I entered the room. In the center of the room, there was a treasure chest. When I opened it, a message appeared along with a gem-like item. You have obtained the Crystal of Wisdom. The effect will be triggered automatically. I was certain that the message would change after waiting for a few seconds. As I expected, it did change. From the following skills, please select 1. Skill you would like to obtain. S rank, item box, enhanced healing, enhanced mana recovery, shortened incantation, acceleration, stealth. A rank, healing magic, barrier magic, fire magic, water magic, wind magic, earth magic, alchemy, summoning magic, enhanced. Memory. B rank, swordsmanship, archery, axe technique, spear technique, shield technique, body technique, status disguise. C rank, physical enhancement, presence detection, mana generation, fire resistance, water resistance, wind resistance, earth resistance, poison resistance, paralysis resistance, curse resistance. D rank, appraisal, provocation, enhanced strength, enhanced endurance, enhanced agility, enhanced stamina, enhanced vision, enhanced hearing. Well, it's the second time, and I was prepared for the possibility of not obtaining a skill, but it seems I can acquire a new skill after all. In that case, I won't hesitate to get a new skill. What should I choose? I pondered. I guess an S-rank skill would be the best choice. Last time, I had to rely on the provocation skill to conquer this room, but I was in a hopeless situation back then since I had no other skills and no weapons. Now, I'm in a much better position, so it doesn't seem like there would be any problem with choosing any skill. Alright, I'll go with acceleration. I selected acceleration, which seemed like the skill that could enhance my combat abilities the most. You have obtained the skill acceleration. Immediately after this message appeared, the door moved and locked me inside. Goo. Then, accompanied by a magic circle, armored bugbears emerged from the void with their groans. Their number, 10. I've experienced it all before, so there's nothing to be surprised about. Indeed, it seems that the second time around, everything is much easier, I muttered. Several minutes later, there were defeated armored bugbears all around me. The battle was surprisingly straightforward. With acceleration at my disposal, the armored bugbears didn't pose much of a challenge. It was almost too easy, and I found it a bit boring. Chapter 64. I've come to settle this. I was in the room where those 10 armor bugbears had appeared. Since I had some knowledge of the dungeon's structure beyond this point, I proceeded without hesitation. There should be no room for confusion as I made my way towards my destination. At that moment, I heard sounds of battle in the distance. It seemed like someone was fighting monsters. Intrigued, I decided to hurry over to see what was happening. Hey there, Kiska. Oh, hello. It was Hero Eligen who was fighting the monsters. I didn't expect all of us to get separated like this. For now, I'm glad to meet up with you. Hero Eligen said. Indeed, he also seemed to have become separated from the rest of the party due to the teleportation. So, what do you plan to do now? Yeah, everyone is a concern, but right now, it's a priority to find the Demon Lord. It would be great if you could guide me. I don't mind guiding you. Guiding through the dungeon was not a problem. However, the dungeon was vast and complex. With no idea of where the Demon Lord might be hiding, it was a question of where to start the search. Well, on this floor, there are 3 teleportation circles, and each of them connects to a different location. It would be great to know which teleportation circle would get us closer to the Demon Lord the fastest. If we were to search all of them randomly, it would take quite a number of days. I see. After listening to my explanation, Hero Eligen placed his hand on his chin and started pondering. Well, but we have no choice but to explore the dungeon at our own pace. Hero Eligen said with a nonchalant expression. Is it really okay to explore so leisurely? Isn't there a possibility that the Demon Lord could escape this dungeon while we are exploring? What if we take too much time? That's a crude concern, Hero Eligen asserted. I had no idea why he was so confident. Do you know what a hero is? No, I don't. Even if I was asked about what a hero was, I had never really thought about it. Listen, a hero is the one destined to defeat the Demon Lord. I see. Understand this well. No matter how formidable the Demon Lord is, even if there seems to be no chance of victory, the hero will eventually defeat the Demon Lord. It's not a matter of logic. It's because that's how it's destined to be. Therefore, as a hero, I will undoubtedly confront and fight the Demon Lord in this dungeon. His words were not just about self-confidence, they almost seemed like blind faith. How could he believe so firmly that a hero would always win against the Demon Lord? Even so, what would happen if the hero were to lose to the Demon Lord? That's an impossible assumption, but in the highly unlikely event that the Demon Lord were to win, the world would be destroyed. Hearing the words, "the world would be destroyed," my heart raced. I came from a world 100 years in the future. It was to save the world from its destined destruction. As the Demon Lord's goal to destroy the world. Yes, that's right. I felt like I had figured out what I needed to do in this era. If I defeat the Demon Lord, the world will be saved. Oh, and there's one more reason why it's fine to explore leisurely. What is it? As a matter of fact, there's been a divine revelation. A divine revelation. It was a message from the gods. I had heard that there were facilities dedicated to receiving such revelations, and occasionally, the gods would speak to the priests working there. The content of the divine revelation is, Katarov Dungeon will become the final battlefield. Is that so? In hindsight, it had been a question. How did the heroes know that the Demon Lord had taken refuge in this dungeon? But if there was a divine revelation, I would be satisfied with that explanation. Anyway, that's why I'm asking for your guidance in the dungeon. Understood. From there, we continued through the dungeon. We debated which of the 3 teleportation circles to use but decided to start with the first one, which led to the floor where Agatha was sealed previously. The reason for our choice was that I thought we might have a chance to meet Agatha. But it seems she's not here after all. In the original timeline, Agatha had been sealed in this place, but now it was completely empty. I wondered where I could find Agatha. What do you mean by, she's not here? Oh, just when I was struggling with how to answer the hero's question, someone or something abruptly appeared. You're here quite early. It was a low, raspy voice. In the space where nothing had been before, it had suddenly materialized. I've come to settle this. Hero Eligen smiled. I dislike your confidence, Hero. Saying that, it gives a wry smile. The entity before us was like a giant, with an inhuman face, bulging muscles, reddish-black skin, and massive armor. It wielded a sword larger than itself. Then, shall we settle this, Zoga, the Demon Lord? That's right, the presence before us was undoubtedly the Demon Lord. Chapter 65 Death Struggle. Zoga, the Demon Lord. Considered a variant of the man-eating giant ogre. A master of the great sword, capable of cutting even dragons in half with a single blow. Ranked as a master, fifth in the hierarchy. He led the Demon Lord's army in the battle known as the Battle of Ariane, but suffered a devastating defeat. As a result, he fled in retreat and sought refuge in the Katarov dungeon. This was the information about the Demon Lord that Hero Eligen shared. And now, the hero and the Demon Lord had just come face to face. Hero and Demon Lord. This conflict between the two has unfolded many times throughout history. Of course, the presence of these two entities changes with each era. In my time, 100 years from now, the conflict between the hero and the Demon Lord is known as the Fourth Hero-Demon War. Yes, the war between the hero and the Demon Lord is always referred to as the Hero-Demon War, and this is the fourth occurrence. All right, here we go. Hero Eligen said so as he unsheathed his sword. This was no ordinary sword. The sword held by the hero was a legendary sword said to be usable only by the hero. Clang. The sound of sword clashing with sword echoed. When I looked, the Demon Lord and the hero were clashing swords. I was perplexed. Just moments ago, there was a considerable distance between the two of them. Could it be that in an instant, they had closed the gap within the sword's reach? It's impossible to keep up with them. From there, the hero and the Demon Lord continued clashing swords. However, their movements were so fast that it was difficult to track with the eyes. I, who had thought about trying to assist the hero just a little while ago, felt foolish. It was impossible for me to intervene in the battle between these two. Well, it seems the injuries from our previous battle have healed. I feel relieved. I was worried about what would happen if I couldn't defeat the Demon Lord when he's not in perfect condition. You're quite the little brat, aren't you? My defeat in the previous battle was because I didn't go all out. I see. Well then, I guess the warm-up can end soon. From now on, I'll give it my all, so keep up with me, okay? I know that without you telling me. Damn it. So, they weren't even going all out before. I couldn't help but be surprised by their conversation. Oh, Kiska, you shouldn't be standing there. If you don't want to die, you should keep your distance. Why yes. As advised, I quickly moved further away. In the next moment, I was blown away by the shockwave. The source of the shockwave was the clash between the hero and the Demon Lord's swords. Just from the impact of their swords clashing, why did a shockwave form? The fierce battle between the hero and the Demon Lord continued from there. Hero Eligen, the first prince of the Rastarna kingdom. Naturally gifted in both the arts and combat, he had overwhelmed those around him since birth. 5 years ago, Eligen obtained the skill, Hero, which bestowed upon him the title of a true hero. For the past 5 years, he had been fighting in the Fourth Hero-Demon War. And now, he was battling the Demon Lord to settle the score. Both the hero and the Demon Lord held the rank of Master. However, in terms of rank, the Demon Lord was ranked 5th, while the hero was ranked 7th. Even though he was ranked lower, it didn't change the fact that the hero's side had the advantage. That was because the hero was an existence capable of absolutely defeating the Demon Lord. Take this, he shouted while wielding the Holy Sword Hagentia. Hero Eligen possessed the skill, Swordsmanship, which improved his sword skills, the skill, Might, that allowed him to wield a greatsword with one hand, and a skill called Forceful Swordsmanship Greatsword, which was an evolution of the two previous skills. Additionally, the hero possessed the ultimate skill known as Doubled Physical Abilities, which temporarily doubled his physical capabilities. The strike unleashed by Hero Eligen, combining all these skills, was devastating. Too slow. The Demon Lord Zoga effortlessly parried the full-force blow with his large sword. Nevertheless, it was hardly surprising. For a Demon Lord, this level of attack wasn't enough to provide a challenge. How about this one then? For his next strike, the hero sharpened his focus. Holy Sword-style swordsmanship, cross-thrust. Saying this, Hero Eligen unleashed a sword technique. Weapons with their own special techniques were known as skill-bearing weapons. By forming a contract with such a weapon, one could learn the unique techniques associated with it. The Holy Sword Hagentia, wielded by hero Eligen, was one of these skill-bearing weapons. From the hero Eligen, who had unleashed his skill, radiated a cross-shaped aura of awe. It was a cruel light that would annihilate any life caught within it. This was truly an extraordinary skill. However, Demon Lord Zoga, his opponent, was also an exceptional existence. Unholy sword-style swordsmanship, taboo. With a technique released from the Demon Lord Zoga's massive sword, the sinful sword Nidshek, hero Eligen's skill was deflected. The technique emanating from the Demon Lord Zoga was a deep abyss of darkness that swallowed even the light. The relentless onslaught from Demon Lord Zoga continued. Heroa, take this. Evading hero Eligen's attack, Demon Lord Zoga prepared to unleash his finishing move. Unholy sword-style swordsmanship, ghostly slash. The sinful sword Nidshek, held by Demon Lord Zoga, was enveloped in dark shadows, transforming into a colossal sword. As it swung toward hero Eligen, it incorporated even the dungeon walls into its strike, intending to deliver the final blow. On the other hand, hero Eligen, likely due to the recoil from his previous skill, was reacting too slowly. At this rate, the hero would be vanquished by the Demon Lord. At least, that's what Kiska, who had been watching their battle from afar, believed. Save. Suddenly, hero Eligen muttered these words. His voice was incredibly faint, and the Demon Lord, at least, couldn't hear it. However, as Kiska watched the movement of the hero's lips, though not with absolute certainty, he suspected that hero Eligen had said, save. In the next instant, an unbelievable event occurred. Kiska was left dumbfounded by this inexplicable phenomenon. To succinctly describe this phenomenon, one might say that hero Eligen had split into multiple individuals. However, it was evident to Kiska that the situation was far from simple. The repetition of time. That was Kiska's conclusion. He reached this conclusion because he possessed the skill, save and reset, which he received from Agetha, the self-proclaimed hero. It was reasonable to assume that hero Eligen, also being a hero, had the same skill. Hero Eligen had been repeating time multiple times in an attempt to defeat the Demon Lord. As a result, Kiska perceived multiple instances of hero Eligen, which appeared as if he had split. The reason it seemed as though he had split was that the echoes of hero Eligen from other timelines were likely lingering. It was likely that the Demon Lord Zoga was unaware that time had been repeating itself. Kiska had the awareness to recognize this because he too possessed the save and reset skill. Hero Eligen continued to repeat time until he finally succeeded. After hundreds of repetitions, hero Eligen ultimately plunged his great sword deep into the Demon Lord Zoga's chest. Idiot. Those were the Demon Lord's final words. It was apparent to anyone witnessing that the Demon Lord had been slain by the hand of the hero. Chapter 66 Settlement. You've defeated me. As the Demon Lord Zoga collapsed, his voice was but a faint whisper amidst the splatter of his own blood. It seems we've managed to save the world. In contrast, the hero wore a face filled with a sense of accomplishment. Congratulations. No need to be so formal. Oh, by the way, I should thank you, Kiska. Thanks to your guidance, I was able to defeat the Demon Lord. No, it's all thanks to the hero's efforts. I haven't done anything. The words I spoke were somewhat mechanical. The hero had defeated the Demon Lord. That was a cause for celebration. Yet, why? I couldn't shake the unease that had settled in the back of my throat. After all, Agetha remained elusive, and I had never managed to meet her. However, the fact remained that the primary source of world-ending catastrophe, the Demon Lord, had been defeated. The world had been saved, and that was undeniable. After the hero defeated the Demon Lord, they were joined by the rest of their party one by one. Your Highness, I deeply apologize for not being by your side at such a crucial moment, said the first to arrive, the Holy Knight Canaria. Then, a few hours later, hey, is this where you've been hiding? Finally found you. Phew, we finally met. I thought I was going to die. Quote. The dwarf Gorgono, the elf Niao, and a hooded man all arrived together. Niao seemed exhausted and unsteady on her feet. Apparently, they were initially scattered to different locations, but they managed to regroup while exploring the dungeon. Once the news of defeating the Demon Lord was shared, everyone expressed astonishment and showered praise upon Hero Eligen. "All right, we're all here now," Hero Eligen declared. To be honest, considering the complexity of the Katarov dungeon, it was almost a miracle that they had managed to regroup like this. "So, are we going to clear the dungeon now to get outside?" someone asked. Hero Eligen replied, "No, I have a better plan." With a thumbs up, he continued. "Hehe, you should be grateful to the genius mage Niao." Niao proudly proclaimed. "Annoying. Wah, this person said something mean about Niao." It seemed I had unconsciously blurted out some harsh words. "Hey, don't cry over something like that. Ha ha ha, don't you just feel amazed by the genius mage?" Holy Knight Canaria scolded, and the dwarf Gorgono burst into hearty laughter. In contrast, Niao was whimpering. "Sorry about that, Kiska. It's a pain when she's in a bad mood, so an apology would be helpful," Hero Eligen whispered to me. In that case, I nodded and turned to Niao to apologize. I'm sorry. Next time, if someone makes fun of Niao, I won't forgive them." "Well, I'll keep that in mind. I'll forgive you. Niao is kind, after all." Despite her youthful appearance, her condescending tone irritated me, but I decided to endure it. It would be troublesome if her mood soured again. "So, Niao, what can you do?" "Hehe, prepare to be amazed." With those words, she held up a staff as tall as herself. "In the name of Niao, I command. From chaos arises order, the absence of good and evil, a radiance beyond the earth. The world is not yet satisfied. The desire lies in the embryo. All things will eventually turn to dust. I command you. Transference magic, first step, return, regresso." In an instant, a large magic circle appeared centered around Niao. When we realized that it was a transference circle, we were already outside of the dungeon. Transference magic. I had heard of it before. In the world, there existed a kind of magic that allowed you to instantly move to a distant location. However, very few mages possessed the ability to accomplish this. Maybe this little girl Niao was an even more incredible mage than I had imagined. He, how was that? Do you now understand how amazing Niao is? She stood next to me, puffing up her chest with a triumphant look on her face. Well, it's hard to suppress the feeling of annoyance over the feeling of amazement. For now, should I pinch her cheek in retaliation? "Naya, why did you pinch Niao's cheek?" Niao shrieked and tried to get the people around us to come to her aid, but nobody paid her any attention. Annoyance seemed to outweigh amazement. In any case, I should keep an eye on her. Wow, the hero has defeated the Demon Lord. Is that the Demon Lord's body? Whoa, it's the hero. As we emerged from the dungeon, we were quickly surrounded by the excited villagers. They noticed the Demon Lord's body lying next to us. Apparently, we had used the transference circle to bring the Demon Lord's body outside as well. It was only natural that if the Demon Lord's body were found like this, people would identify us as the hero party that had defeated the Demon Lord. In this manner, we were warmly welcomed by the excited villagers. "Are you leaving already?" Afterward, a celebration feast for defeating the Demon Lord began in the village. Amidst the revelry and drinking, I was preparing to set out on my journey. Suddenly, I was approached by Hero Eligen. "Yes, there's something I must do." "I see. I'm grateful to you. So if you ever run into trouble, don't hesitate to rely on me." "No, I can't trouble Hiro-sama with my problems." I gently declined, as I couldn't rely on the prince of this country, especially being a farmer's son. "I understand. I hope you succeed in what you must do." Eligen's slightly sad expression was probably just my imagination. In any case, with those words, I left the village of Katarov. I had only one goal in mind, to find Agatha. Chapter 67 Banquet. In order to search for Agatha, I left the village of Katarov and decided to go to a large city to gather information. That's why I took a carriage and traveled all the way. The royal capital, Larna. As the name suggests, it's the town where His Majesty, the King of the Rastarna Kingdom, resides. It's the most prosperous town in the Rastarna Kingdom and a key transportation hub where many people come and go. So, I thought it would be perfect for gathering information, but The town seemed strange. I had never left the village of Katarov before. This was my first time visiting such a large town, but even so, I could tell that something was off. Everyone was having a great time. Eating and drinking outdoors was common, and some people were playing musical instruments and dancing. It was like a lively festival. "Hey, buddy, you should eat something too," someone called out to me. A tall and burly man, even bigger than me, casually slung his arm around my shoulders. "Thank you." I accepted the food he handed me, and then he poured some beer into a mug for me. After that, he said, "Cheers," and clinked mugs with me. The mugs were filled to the brim, and there was some spillage, but nobody seemed to mind. "Wow, it's really festive here," the man said this as he unreservedly downed his drink. What's all this celebration for?" "What? You don't know? The hero finally defeated the demon lord. So, we're celebrating that." "Ah, I see. That makes sense. Celebrating the defeat of the demon lord is only natural. However, with everyone in town in this mood, it might be challenging to gather information. I saw it myself. The battle between the hero and the demon lord. What did you say?" Everyone around me turned to look. Since it was a good opportunity, I thought I could relax a bit. After all, I was the guide for the hero. I must have had a smug expression when I said that. Then, I described the battle between the hero and the demon lord like it was an epic tale. The more I spoke, the more people gathered around me, eagerly listening to my story. When I finished telling them about the hero defeating the demon lord, everyone cheered and those who had joined in later asked me to start from the beginning. I got carried away and told the same story over again, but with each retelling, I improved my storytelling, using gestures and exaggeration to make it more entertaining. The demon lord effortlessly blocked the hero's ultimate move, and it seemed like the hero's defeat was imminent. Everyone had given up, and all that was left was to pray to the gods. But the hero never gave up. His unwavering belief brought about a miracle. As I proclaimed this, cheers and gasps rose from the crowd of townspeople. There was quite a large audience gathered around me, all captivated by my storytelling. What's more, the excited people generously threw coins my way. Thanks to them, I earned a considerable amount. This is unexpectedly satisfying. "Hey, there's a fool here who's fabricating the hero's reputation. I've received a report." I spotted soldiers in armor nearby. Oh no, I didn't realize I did anything wrong, but being too conspicuous tends to attract attention. You see, this is not what it looks like. As I tried to explain while racking my brain for an excuse, my name was unexpectedly called. "Isn't that Kiska?" I looked over, and it was a familiar face. The approaching soldier was none other than the Holy Knight Canaria. "What are you doing in a place like this?" I was spreading the legend of the hero to everyone. Yes, this was an activity I did for the hero, akin to charity work. So there shouldn't be any reason for anyone to blame me. Well, the fact that you witnessed the hero's battle is true. It doesn't seem like you're spreading lies. In that case, it's okay for me to continue my activities. That's right. Spreading the legend of the hero to the masses benefits the kingdom. Your activities are approved. Thank you very much. With this, my activities received official recognition from the kingdom. This would allow me to conduct even more extensive activities. Wait a minute. Don't lose sight of your goal. My purpose is to find Agatha. I can't afford to waste more time on this. By the way, what is Hero Elijah Sama currently doing? I casually inquired. Since Holy Knight Canaria was here in the capital, I assumed that Hero Elijah had also returned to the capital. Canaria-san. However, she was gazing into the distance as if my words didn't reach her ears. "Dragons." And then, in a hushed voice, she muttered, "Dragons. What on earth is she talking about?" Ruer. A deafening roar, like an earthquake, reverberated. I immediately turned around. What I saw before me left me dumbfounded. A dragon. Dragons were considered the most fearsome creatures among the various monsters. They had an S-rank threat level, and defeating them was known to be exceptionally difficult. And there it was, the legendary creature, a dragon. If it were just one dragon in the sky, I might not have been so astonished. It was uncommon but not impossible for a single dragon to enter a city. However, it wasn't just one dragon. How many were there, then? Too many to count. There were so many dragons that they blocked out the sunlight as they filled the sky. Moments ago, the weather was clear, but now, with the arrival of the dragon horde, the sky became overcast. Hey, what are those? Dragons are attacking in a horde. Panicked voices from the townspeople reached my ears. Dragons were typically known for their pride, tending to act alone rather than in groups. But now, it was as if they had formed an army, acting together. Canaria. I called her name on impulse. She was a holy knight and a member of the royal guard. I hoped she would have a plan to escape this situation. She's not here. I looked at the spot where Canaria had been just moments ago, but she was gone. Hurry, we need to run. Hey, don't push. Don't push me either. Mama, where are you? The festive atmosphere of the town had transformed into chaos. Everyone was running to escape the attacking dragons. The panicked crowd pushed and shoved each other, causing minor clashes. One by one, dragons began to land on the ground. Their landings caused the earth to tremble, buildings to collapse, and people to be crushed. As more dragons landed, more lives were lost. One dragon unleashed black flames, incinerating people, while another one used its claws to grab and devour those attempting to escape. People were brutally killed throughout the town. Screams and cries of despair echoed from all directions. Some people tried to fight back, but they, too, met a grim fate. The city gates were blocked by dragons, who devoured anyone who came near with their massive jaws. I witnessed people being killed before my very eyes once again. The city, once home to people, had turned into a battlefield. No, it was more akin to an execution ground. The people were being mercilessly slaughtered without any chance of resistance. Squish, 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 the sound of people being trampled and crushed could be heard, as if it were a macabre rhythm. Before I knew it, a mountain of lifeless bodies began to pile up. In the midst of all this, I could do nothing but cower in place. Anything I did now wouldn't change the situation. The violence unfolding before my eyes was simply overwhelming. The world was heading towards its demise. I had come from 100 years in the future to change it, even though I lacked a real understanding of what it meant. Nevertheless, the observer had told me this and sent me back. Perhaps that was why I had never truly comprehended the significance of the world's impending destruction. But now, in this moment, it was all too clear. Can I really change this? How? How could I, alone, possibly make a difference and alter this future? It's impossible. I concluded that this was a problem I couldn't handle. As I did, I heard my heart shatter. It's impossible, impossible, impossible. Screaming in despair, I ran wildly. If the dragons were to kill me at any moment, so be it. I would prefer that outcome. Running and running, I collided with someone. Initially, I thought I had run into a pillar or something similar. The impact was solid, like a massive weight. But upon closer inspection, I saw a face and moving lips. Indeed, it seems to be going well. What's happening? Why is the demon Lord Zoga, who should be dead, standing in front of me? That's right, what I initially thought was a pillar was actually the demon Lord Zoga. Why are you here? I asked him, still confused. The demon lord turned around but paid me no mind. It was as if I were just an ant in front of him. He swung his massive sword, as if to crush the ant beneath it. I tried to shield myself with my arm, but the sword cut through my arm and my body. When I came to my senses, I was already dead. Awakening, I took a breath. Where am I? What's this place? First, I needed to figure out where I was. Looking around, I was surrounded by rugged walls. I was inside the Katarov dungeon. Oh, I remembered now. Right after I stepped into the teleportation circle with the heroes, I ended up all alone inside the dungeon. It seemed like that was the point at which I would respawn. Chapter 68 One ending. Recalling the scenes I had just witnessed, I felt dizzy. If I didn't do anything, that disaster would unfold again. So, I had to stop it at all costs, but what could I do? I remembered the countless dragons descending upon the royal city of Larna. Dragons were typically solitary creatures, but for some reason, those dragons at that time were acting together in an organized manner. Most likely, the demon Lord Zoga was commanding them. I had heard that the Demon Lord had the power to control monsters. If I can prevent the resurrection of the Demon Lord, can I avert this unprecedented catastrophe? For some reason, the Demon Lord Zoga, who should have been killed by the hero, was in the royal city of Larna. I couldn't imagine how such a thing was possible, but there might be a way to prevent his resurrection. For instance, assuming that the Demon Lord's body was necessary for his resurrection, guarding that body might be a way to prevent it. My plan was taking shape. First, I needed to rejoin Hero Eligen as quickly as possible and ask him to defeat the Demon Lord. I moved following my actions from the previous timeline. I avoided the pitfalls and the spikes below and entered the hidden room that followed. In the hidden room, I acquired the skill, Acceleration, from a chest and defeated the appearing armored bugbears. Afterward, I rejoined Hero Eligen and guided him to the location of the Demon Lord Zoga. Then, I watched the duel between the hero and the Demon Lord. Just like in the previous timeline, Hero Eligen emerged victorious. The Demon Lord is indeed dead. I confirmed the Demon Lord Zoga's lifeless body with a slashed chest. I couldn't hear his heartbeat, and he wasn't breathing. There didn't seem to be any possibility that he was alive. Kiska-kun, you look a bit down. Is there something on your mind? Suddenly, Hero Eligen spoke to me. It seemed like my worries were showing on my face. I was anxious that the Demon Lord might come back to life, so I was checking his body. I replied honestly, thinking there was no harm in doing so. Haha, worried about a resurrection, huh? Kiska-kun, you're quite the worrier, he chuckled. While I had seen the Demon Lord resurrect with my own eyes, I couldn't joke about it, and at the same time, I couldn't expect people to believe the truth if I said it. Well, if you're that worried, you could burn the body. Is it okay to burn it? Even though I'll have to take the head back as proof of the kill, Hero Eligen said, holding a sword to the Demon Lord's neck and separating his head from his body. Indeed, cremating the body is the common practice for the deceased. This is because occasionally, if they're buried in the ground, they may return as undead. So, burning seemed like the safer option. I wonder if there's any magic stones. Oh, I just ran out. Kiska-kun, do you have any magic stones? I don't have any either. If we had magic stones, we could start a fire, but it seems we're out of luck in that department. Right, I have an idea of where to obtain some magic stones. Can I leave this place for a little while? Yeah, sure. Be careful. Okay, I will. Afterward, I hurriedly moved through the dungeon. Magic stones can be obtained by defeating monsters, so I just need to find suitable ones around here. No, come to think of it, this area should have the hideout created by the vampire Judite. Her hideout contains stored magic stones. It might be easier to borrow the stored magic stones than to defeat monsters to get them. Wait, though, the hideout was in the era when she lived 100 years from now. There's no guarantee it exists in this era. After all, Judite the vampire is immortal, and by this point in time, she might have already made this dungeon her base. Anyway, I'll check it out just to be sure. I recall that if I hit the walls around here, a passage should appear. There it is. I enter and find a room with beds and sofas. Clearly, these were intentionally placed. In other words, at this point in time, the vampire Judite is operating from this dungeon as her headquarters. There might even be a chance that Judite the vampire is somewhere in this dungeon. While inwardly expressing gratitude to Judite the vampire, I procure the required amount of magic stones. After that, I return to the location where Hero Eligen is. You came back quickly, Hero Eligen says as I return with magic stones in my hands. I happen to obtain quite a few, I reply. While saying that, I glance at the person standing next to Hero Eligen. It's the Holy Knight Canaria. Apparently, she joined us while I was away fetching the magic stones. Canaria-san, thank you for your hard work. HMPH, you managed to reunite with His Majesty before I did. While having such a conversation, we prepare to burn the remains of the Demon Lord. What are you doing? Just making sure the Demon Lord doesn't come back to life by burning his remains. I see. You'll be taking the head with you, right? Of course. In that case, there's no issue. Holy Knight Canaria's question is answered by Hero Eligen. Then, we ignite a fire using the magic stones and burn the demon lord's remains. Oh, there you are. I finally found you. I thought I was gonna die. I know. I was starting to lose hope. Quote. The dwarf Gorgono, the elf Niao, and a hooded man named Noct arrive. By that time, the demon lord's remains have turned into nothing but bones. After that, just like in the previous timeline, we use Niao's teleportation magic to exit the dungeon. A grand welcome awaits us when we return to Katarov village, with food and dancing. While everyone else is relaxed, I remain alert. The demon lord's head is tied to a pole and displayed at the center of the village. I've been observing it the entire time. As long as this head remains here, the demon lord shouldn't be able to come back to life. Hey there, Kiska-kun. How are you holding up? Hero Eligen speaks to me. You seem a bit down. It seems like I've been caught being on edge. Well, I'm worried that the demon lord might come back to life. Ha ha ha, Kiska-kun, you really are a worrier. Yeah, maybe I am. With a nod, Hero Eligen sits down next to me. By the way, what's your relationship with this person you're looking for, Agatha? He suddenly asks, seemingly offering a topic of conversation. Come to think of it, when I first met Hero Eligen, I inquired about Agatha. He had no idea who Agatha was. Agatha is an important person to me. Is she your family? No, she's not my family. Then, a girlfriend. Not a girlfriend, but I can't think of a good way to describe the relationship between Agatha and me. We're not related in any way, but I just want to help her. Well, it's something like that. Not a girlfriend, but denying it would be more trouble than it's worth, and I'm not interested in explaining our relationship. I see. If I happen to come across her, I'll be sure to let you know. Thank you. I would appreciate that. While expressing my gratitude, I think to myself, where could Agatha be? She's a hero, so I assumed she would be on a mission to defeat the demon lord, but even after the demon lord's defeat, there's no sign of her. I really want to see Agatha soon. I have the urge to go look for her right away, but for now, preventing the demon lord's revival takes precedence. By the way, what are you planning to do next, hero? Oh, I'll be staying in the village for the night, and then I'll head to the capital early tomorrow morning. I see, so the hero is also heading to the capital. In that case, the hero must have witnessed the dragons attacking the town in the previous timeline. What will you do with the demon lord's head? Oh, I'm definitely taking it with me. May I accompany you as well? I don't want to take my eyes off the demon lord's head. If that's the case, I have no choice but to join the hero on this journey. Sure, that's fine. Huh, is it really okay? I'm surprised that the decision was made so easily. You're one of the heroes who contributed to defeating the demon lord. Treating someone like you with respect is only natural. Oh, thank you. I bow my head involuntarily. Seeing this, Hero Eligen smiles. The following day, Hero Eligen and his group boarded a carriage to set out on their journey. It appeared that the others would accompany them as well, splitting into 2 carriages. Thanks to my request, I was able to ride in the same carriage as the hero. Although the Holy Knight Canaria expressed her dissatisfaction with this arrangement, Hero Eligen accepted my presence. My real intention was to stay close to the demon lord's head, not Hero Eligen. However, in the end, I was content with the fact that I would be riding in the same carriage as the demon lord's head. As a result, in the first carriage, there were 3 passengers, Hero Eligen, myself, and the Holy Knight Canaria. The other carriage held the dwarf Gorgono, the elf Niao, and the hooded man Noct. The carriages departed. Suddenly, the Holy Knight Canaria mentioned, once we arrive in the capital, they will welcome His Majesty with great celebration. Hero Eligen responded, I'd be happy if that were the case. Canaria continued, yes, I expect there's a festival going on right now in the capital because they would have heard that the demon lord was defeated. When we arrive at the capital, we should hold a triumphant ceremony. A triumphant ceremony, huh? I feel a bit embarrassed. Canaria, would you participate in the triumphant ceremony too? If your majesty desires it. The 2 of them engaged in this conversation while sitting across from each other. Kiska, would you walk with me at the triumphant ceremony? Well, is that okay? I told you. You're also a hero who contributed to defeating the Demon Lord. You should have the right to participate. I was taken by surprise, as I hadn't dreamt of participating in such an event. Uncertain of how to respond, I turned to look at Canaria for guidance. Understanding my dilemma, she answered for me. That's His Majesty's proposal. Accepting it graciously is proper etiquette. I see, that's how it is. Understood. I'll participate. So, I decided to agree. The conversation continued inside the carriage. On the seat next to me, the Demon Lord's head was respectfully placed. There were no signs of the Demon Lord's revival, and I hoped nothing would happen. The carriage suddenly came to a halt. It was an abrupt stop, causing the carriage to shake. Is something wrong? I muttered to myself. Yeah, it might be a good idea to find out what happened, Hero Eligen suggested. Following his advice, I opened the door and called out to the coachman. Excuse me, is everything all right? I spoke loudly enough for the coachman to hear. There was a crashing sound, and I wondered what it could be. I turned around to see what was happening. Something burst open, and I felt it splatter all over me. I wondered what it was and tried to wipe it away with my hand. It was red. My hand was stained with a bright red liquid. It took a few seconds to realize that the bright red substance was blood. Ahaha, finally, I've killed him. I've killed him, killed him, killed him, killed him, killed him, killed him. I've killed him. Accompanied by her laughter, she muttered as if reciting a spell. The one screaming was none other than the Holy Knight Canaria. What? I couldn't understand what was happening. Before me, there was the Holy Knight Canaria, with insane eyes and a laughing expression, and the exhausted Hero Eligen. On closer inspection, a dagger was stabbed into the hero's neck. It seemed like Canaria had killed the hero, but I couldn't accept that fact, feeling a sense of denial. I didn't understand. Why did the Holy Knight Canaria kill the hero? The reason was completely beyond my comprehension. Why? That's why I muttered. Why did she do it? I wanted a reason that made sense. Why, you ask? He was in my way. In the way of the hero. She answered with a forced grin, the corners of her mouth twitching. I see, I need to get rid of the witnesses. She glared at me while gripping the sword scabbard tightly. This is bad, if I don't do something, I'll be killed. As she swung her sword, I attempted to parry the strike with my blazing sword. However, I couldn't muster enough force to deliver a lethal blow, and as a result, I was thrown out of the carriage. I still couldn't grasp the situation, but one thing was clear. If I didn't resist, I'd be killed by the Holy Knight Canaria. What's going on? Perhaps she had noticed something unusual. Niao stuck her head out of the other carriage. Don't come. If she came, I thought Canaria would jump out of the carriage to kill her. So, I yelled, don't come. I was sure that in a few seconds, Canaria would jump out of the carriage to kill me, so I tensed my nerves and gripped the sword firmly. Calm down, concentrate, don't blink, get ready to respond if Holy Knight Canaria tries to kill me. Wait quietly. The sounds of my heartbeat and breathing echoed in my ears. She's not coming. I thought for sure that she would immediately jump out of the carriage to attack, so I was waiting for her, but there was no sign of Canaria coming out. What's going on? What is Canaria doing inside the carriage? Fire magic, 4th tier, Scorching Flame Fuego Trio. I saw Niao, along with a magic circle, radiating pillars of fire. Why? What is she using magic against? While pondering this question, I looked at the source of the flames. Gya, a groaning sound. The source of that groan was a dragon. The dragon was blocking the path of the carriage. Despite its conspicuous presence, my attention had been so focused on Holy Knight Canaria that I hadn't noticed it at all. Why was there a dragon here? I didn't know the reason, but I understood that the dragon was the cause of the carriage's sudden stop. Anyway, our enemy wasn't just Holy Knight Canaria. We also had to deal with the dragon. Could we win? Such doubts crossed my mind, but for now, I had to focus solely on the battle. With a sudden jolt, the carriage moved. Oh, in a matter of seconds, Holy Knight Canaria would likely jump out. I had to stay alert. I see, so I should kill this one. I was dumbfounded. That's because, what emerged from the carriage wasn't Holy Knight Canaria. It was none other than the Demon Lord Zoga, wielding a massive sword. Huh. As I uttered those dumbfounded words, my body was already cut down by the giant sword. Chapter 69 Modest. What's the meaning of this? I awaken. I touch the spot where I was just cut with a blade, reassuring myself that there are no wounds, and then return from death. What is going on? My head is in turmoil. Holy Knight Canaria killed Hero Eligen. It wasn't a spontaneous act, I can tell from her words and actions that she planned it. She probably had been waiting for an opportunity to kill the hero inside the carriage. And then, the supposedly dead demon Lord Zoga emerged from the carriage. I have no idea what happened inside the carriage. But one thing is certain, Holy Knight Canaria resurrected demon Lord Zoga. So, Holy Knight Canaria is a traitor. However, knowing this could be a significant revelation. There might be a glimmer of hope. Perhaps we can prevent the resurrection of demon Lord Zoga. Hey, what do you think you're doing? I was grabbed by the collar, and Hero Eligen shouted angrily. I apologize for taking matters into my own hands. However, it was necessary to prevent the Demon Lord's revival. Until the hero defeated the Demon Lord, I followed the same actions as in the previous timeline. Then, against the hero's wishes, I did something on my own. I burned the body of the Demon Lord, including his head. The Demon Lord's body is important evidence of his defeat. Do you understand what it means to burn it? While gripping my collar, Hero Eligen said so. In the previous timeline, Hero Eligen had said that it was fine to burn everything except the Demon Lord's head. As long as they had the head, it would serve as proof of their victory. However, leaving the head resulted in the revival of Demon Lord Zoga. So, the only option was to burn it, head and all. If the Demon Lord were to revive, all of the hero's efforts would be in vain. Please understand. There's no way the Demon Lord will come back. For the peace and relief of the people, we need the Demon Lord's head. With a sigh, the hero scratched his head roughly. Honestly, I didn't care how much the hero resented me as long as we could prevent the Demon Lord's resurrection. Then, as in the previous timeline, Holy Knight Canaria arrived. Holy Knight Canaria looked at the burned remains of the Demon Lord and commented, I see, you took quite the liberty here. I wondered what she really thought deep down. I hoped she would be angry that we'd prevented the Demon Lord's revival. It would be the best outcome. If she believed that burning the remains wouldn't hinder the Demon Lord's resurrection, it would be the worst-case scenario. I sincerely hoped for the former. Afterwards, we regrouped with the other party members and used teleportation to return outside the dungeon. Even if we burned the Demon Lord's body, his bones would remain. As the minimum evidence, we decided to bring those remains back with us. Then, in the village of Katarov, a celebration began. However, perhaps due to the absence of the Demon Lord's body, the festivities felt more subdued than in the previous timeline. Amidst all this, I had been contemplating a certain possibility. Could the Demon Lord be revived even if only his bones remained? Although Holy Knight Canaria appeared angry when she saw the burning body, she didn't seem shocked. Her expression might indicate that she was confident that the Demon Lord's revival wouldn't be hindered by the body burning. The more I thought about it, the more I felt that way. If that's the case, I have no choice but to take action. In the middle of the night, while the villagers were asleep, I acted alone. This should be it. I held a wooden box containing the Demon Lord's remains. The box had been carelessly placed in a prominent spot in the village, making it easy to steal. It was likely left there because no one would think of stealing the Demon Lord's remains. I checked the contents to confirm the presence of the remains. With the remains in hand, I decided to escape from the village. Huff, 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 huff. I stopped when I felt that I had run far enough. Running with all my might had left me panting heavily. I took out the remains from the wooden box and began the task of shattering them with a sword. Crushing the bones was a time-consuming process. No matter how much I smashed them, I felt it might not be enough to prevent the revival. So, by the time I was satisfied with the shattering, the sun had already risen. I think this should be enough. Truly, after being shattered into pieces like this, I muttered as I gazed at the bone fragments that had become as fine as dust. I then scattered them into a nearby pond. Now, all that's left is to pray that the Demon Lord doesn't resurrect. I should have done everything I could. After burning the demon lord's body and finally crushing the remaining bones, I scattered them in a pond. There shouldn't be a better course of action than this. I heard the sound of wings flapping. A gust of wind enveloped me. When I looked up, a dragon was about to land from the sky. Quite an odd person to be doing such strange things. The voice was familiar. The individual jumped down from the dragon's back and landed in front of me. Canaria. I shouted the name of the person standing before me. How did they know my location? It was a perplexing question. However, the bone remains had already been scattered. If they came to retrieve them, it was too late. I know all about your scheme. HMPH, what scheme are you talking about? You're trying to resurrect the demon lord, aren't you? Arg, why would you say that? As soon as I pointed it out, Holy Knight Canaria widened her eyes and stepped back. It seemed that she was quite shaken. But, too bad. I've foiled your scheme. The demon lord's remains are gone. Now, there's no way to resurrect him. I was already convinced that I had won. With this, the resurrection of the demon lord had been prevented. You surprised me. As Holy Knight Canaria said this, she took something out of her pocket. It was a ring with a jewel that radiated light. This is a ring, one of a kind in the world created by my master. The power of this ring is resurrection. As soon as she said this, the ring in her hand started to shine and then made a shattering sound as it disintegrated. Whoops, what's going on here? A voice came from right behind me. Could it be? Unbelievable. As I thought that, I turned around. It seems that you believed that a body is needed for resurrection, but unfortunately, that was a mistake. So, all your schemes were in vain. Holy Knight Canaria spoke earnestly. It was an inconvenient truth. So, what should I do then? Kill that one, please. Upon the demon lord's question, Holy Knight Canaria lowered her head and made a request. I see, understood. The demon lord smirked, and almost simultaneously, his fist struck me. Ah! I let out a groan. My body was forcefully sent flying, knocking down the trees in its path. Ah! I coughed violently where I landed, spitting out blood with each cough. What, you're still alive? Saying so, the demon lord casually lifted my head, and I had no strength left to resist. Then, he slammed me into a rock. Naturally, my consciousness faded. Chapter 70 Unconsciousness. When I opened my eyes, I was still inside the dungeon. I just couldn't find the motivation to do anything and spent some time lost in thought. Despite all my efforts to burn and shatter the demon lord's remains into pieces, it had all been in vain. But there was no time to dwell on it. There had been some gains. First and foremost, I now knew about the existence of the ring. If I could just steal it from the Holy Knight Canaria, there was a good chance to prevent the resurrection of Demon Lord Zoga. With this determination, I had to start moving. My first step was to locate where Holy Knight Canaria was. Having decided on my plan, I headed straight to the room where many heavily armored bugbears appeared, gaining the skill, acceleration, along the way. In the previous timeline, I would have moved from this point to where Hero Eligen was located. However, this time I wanted to avoid encountering Hero Eligen and search independently. If I were lucky, I'd find Holy Knight Canaria as I explored. I found her. I couldn't help but mutter under my breath. Before me was Holy Knight Canaria. She was on a higher floor than where Hero Eligen was and close to the room where the golden living armor was supposed to be. In that area, Holy Knight Canaria was searching on her own. I was ready to attack with the intention of killing her. With determination, I lunged forward, swinging my blazing sword. A loud clang echoed as her sword deflected the strike. It seemed my surprise attack had failed. "What are you thinking, scoundrel?" She glared at me with a sharp gaze. "If there were any hints of an impending attack, you should have been aware." With no room for conversation, I replied and resumed my attack. HMPH, that was a foolish question. I've disliked you from the moment I laid eyes on you, and it seems my instincts were not wrong. I inwardly cursed her for saying that. A traitor who sided with the Demon Lord. The battle with Holy Knight Canaria then began. What's wrong? Your attacks have been feeble since the beginning. The battle was consistently one-sided. The reason was simple: Holy Knight Canaria was stronger and more agile. With each sword block, my body arched backward, creating openings. In this situation, it was only natural that I'd be on the defensive. Shut up. I wiped the sweat from my forehead, casting the words aside. I still had a trick up my sleeve. Acceleration. The skill I had just acquired earlier allowed me to move at an increased speed for a certain duration. What? In an instant, Holy Knight Canaria looked at me in astonishment. How does it feel to face this attack? You shouldn't stand a chance. There was a sound of impact, coming from right behind me. As I realized, my body was bent in an unexpected direction. Someone had attacked me from behind. By the time I comprehended this, my body had already collided with the wall. Who in the world? I thought while raising my head. Is Canaria all right? Your Highness, I apologize for troubling you. It's all because of my incompetence. Canaria, you don't need to apologize at times like this. The person speaking to Holy Knight Canaria was Hero Eligen. Ah, I see. Until now, I had been guiding Hero Eligen to the location where the demon Lord Zoga was. Because I hadn't done that, he had come all the way here. By the time I realized that, I had lost consciousness. Chapter 71. Do it. It was a failure, I muttered as I returned from death. Leaving Hero Eligen and attacking Holy Knight Canaria had been a clear failure. For Hero Eligen, Holy Knight Canaria was a trusted comrade, while I was someone he had just met and didn't trust. If the two of us were in a fight, it was obvious which side Hero Eligen would support. To avoid making the same mistake, I needed to guide Hero Eligen to the location where Demon Lord Zoga was first. During the battle between the hero and the Demon Lord, I could then target Holy Knight Canaria. So, I needed to carefully follow this plan to avoid making the same mistake. Dealing with Hero Eligen was relatively easy. The real question was whether I could defeat Holy Knight Canaria with my power. Based on the feeling of our previous fight, it was clear that Holy Knight Canaria was stronger than me. My rank was Platinum, while Holy Knight Canaria's rank was one level higher at Diamond. Nevertheless, giving up was premature. After all, I had the ability to save and reset. I could repeat it as many times as needed until I could win. Challenging Holy Knight Canaria for the second attempt, I began by sending Hero Eligen to the location of Demon Lord Zoga. I've come to settle the score, Hero Eligen joyfully exclaimed when he found Demon Lord Zoga. After witnessing their fight, I hurried back along the path. Now, with Hero Eligen out of the way, I could finally attack Holy Knight Canaria without any interference. What are you planning? Holy Knight Canaria yelled angrily, and I responded with a swift attack. I know that you are a traitor, I shouted. After repeating my attack several times, I was eventually slain by Holy Knight Canaria. This time, it seemed like I had been defeated. However, I never expected to succeed right from the beginning. My battle had only just begun. On the third attempt, I died from a thrust by Holy Knight Canaria, crushing my heart. On the fourth attempt, severe damage to the brain from a sword strike led to my death. On the fifth attempt, after having my sword knocked out of my hand, I was stabbed in the throat and died. On the sixth attempt, after having my legs severed and becoming immobilized, my head was cut off, leading to my death. On the seventh attempt, my heart was stabbed just before the battle started, causing my death. On the eighth attempt, after having my eyeballs impaled, my chest was slashed, and I died. On the ninth attempt, despite fighting valiantly, I bled to death due to a stab in the side. On the 10th attempt, I died. Death, 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 and so on, for about 100 attempts. Once again, I was about to challenge Holy Knight Canaria. I already lost count of how many times I've died. Maybe it's been close to 100 times that Holy Knight Canaria has killed me. However, with each repetition, my battles have been getting closer. A few more attempts, and I'm certain I can defeat her. Holy Knight Canaria is approaching from the other side. She hasn't noticed my presence yet, so there's only one thing to do, a surprise attack in place of a greeting. Nye. Holy Knight Canaria is startled by my sudden appearance. I don't hesitate and swing my blazing sword. I aim for her knee, so I make a low swing. As intended, she loses her balance, but I can't afford to be careless. I know she'll retaliate with a vertical swing, after all, I've battled her hundreds of times. I take a big sidestep and follow with a vertical spinning slash. I know there's a gap in her armor around her shoulder. I also know how to position myself to exploit it. Ah! She groans and falls backward. This is it. This is the most significant opening I've had so far. I can't let it slip away. Acceleration. Using my skill, I temporarily increase my speed. With this speed, I swiftly cut off her right arm. Crash! Her right arm, along with the sword she was holding, falls to the floor. I did it. Inside, I can't help but feel a sense of joy. A swordswoman without her right arm is practically defenseless. This victory is now assured. Yuu! Holy Knight Canaria shouted as if her throat didn't matter, her expression full of bulging veins, clearly consumed by rage. In your face. I, on the other hand, wore a confident smile. However, no matter how consumed by anger she was, there was no way this situation could be reversed. Do it, puppeteer. In a normal situation, there would be no chance for a reversal. Huh. From where her right arm had been, a dark, shadowy entity was growing. The dark shadow expanded significantly and transformed into a massive jaw. Go ahead and eat. Holy Knight Canaria gave the command emotionlessly. In the next moment, I was devoured by the puppeteer. Chapter 72,120 times. For real. I'm used to dying, but being killed by the puppeteer has genuinely shaken me. Why did Canaria control the puppeteer? I don't understand. But she clearly demonstrated her control over the puppeteer. First of all, who is Holy Knight Canaria? Why would she betray the hero? Perhaps by investigating Holy Knight Canaria, I can find hints on how to turn the puppeteer into a human. It might be a good idea to dig into her a bit. With this determination, I headed resolutely towards her. The first person I meet is you. Holy Knight Canaria grumbled as she saw me. You're familiar with this dungeon, right? Then, guide me. I had no intention of engaging in small talk with her, so I decided to say this promptly. Stop pretending. I know you're working for the Demon Lord. Holy Knight Canaria's face twisted slightly at my words. However, she quickly regained her composure and retorted. What nonsense are you talking about? I've sworn loyalty to the hero. There's no way that can be true. Still trying to cover it up, huh? Well, that's fine. I know plenty of other secrets. A ring that can resurrect, a parasitic sword puppeteer. The evidence is already gathered. Upon hearing my words, her eyes widened, and she stared at me with a bewildered expression. Hey, ha ha ha, why does someone like you know my secrets? Her eerie laughter sent a chill down my spine. This was the first time I'd seen Holy Knight Canaria like this. Perhaps this was her true nature. Answer my question, Canaria. How did you get the parasitic sword puppeteer? I received it from my lord. Come to think of it, she had mentioned earlier that she received the resurrection ring from her lord as well. Is your lord the demon lord? It was only logical that her lord would be the demon lord, considering her involvement in trying to resurrect the demon lord and her intent to kill the hero. Do not insult my lord. She suddenly shouted, leaving me bewildered by the abrupt outburst. Listen, my lord is a far more superior being than the demon lord. Even comparing them is audacious. I tried to make sense of Holy Knight Canaria's words. So, her lord was someone other than the demon lord. What did this mean? Who are you? Very well, I'll tell you one thing. Chaosism, that's the only word that defines us. I'm one of the believers. Is this, Chaosism, the name of your organization? Well, you could say that. With that response, she unleashed her parasitic sword puppeteer. It seemed she had no intention of continuing the conversation. I tried to resist the puppeteer's attack, but my resistance was in vain, and I perished. It appears that Holy Knight Canaria belongs to an organization called Chaosism. The organization's leader isn't the Demon Lord, and it was this leader who gave the parasitic sword puppeteer to Holy Knight Canaria. This is what I learned from our conversation. I tried a few times to extract more information, but the attempts ended in failure. It seemed that she wouldn't reveal the crucial details. Nonetheless, my course of action remained the same. First, defeat Holy Knight Canaria to prevent the Demon Lord's revival. Beyond that, there should be Agatha and the puppeteer. With this determination, I advanced once again. Attempt number 120. As I continued to die repeatedly, I gradually developed strategies against Holy Knight Canaria. First, I reviewed the skills I should acquire in the room with numerous armored bear bugbears. I had always chosen acceleration, but I decided to reconsider whether this choice was truly optimal. My current stats after respawning were as follows. Skill points, 2430. Save and reset, no concept of levels. Provocation level 3, 1000 skill points needed to level up. Swordsmanship level 3, 3000 skill points needed to level up. Vow, no concept of levels. What I should focus on is the remaining skill points, which amount to 2430, surprisingly quite a lot. Defeating the boss of the Katarov dungeon, the Great Centipede Rumoas, alongside Agetha, must be the reason my skill points have accumulated to this extent. If I choose acceleration, it will be displayed like this. Skill points, 2430. Acceleration level 150 skill points needed to level up. Acceleration level 2, 500 skill points needed to level up. Acceleration level 3, 5000 skill points needed to level up. In this situation, I have tried challenging Holy Knight Canaria many times, and I get close to victory but consistently lose when she uses the parasitic sword puppeteer. So, I decided to reconsider options other than acceleration. The list of available skills is as follows. S rank, A rank, B rank, C rank, D rank. I ruled out magic-related skills as they require magic generation, and I also eliminated skills that don't seem to contribute to combat effectiveness like enhanced memory. As a result, I am considering enhanced healing, stealth, physical enhancement, strength enhancement, agility enhancement, and stamina enhancement. Now, I'm contemplating which skill to choose or whether I should try them all due to my save and reset ability. Maybe I'll try them all. After all, if I fail, I can just die and start over. Chapter 73 Synthesis. If I choose Enhanced Healing, I'll spend 550 skill points to level it up to level 3. This skill allows my wounds to heal faster, making me more durable in prolonged battles. However, against opponents with the puppeteer's ability, I'll still die from a single strike, rendering this enhancement less effective. If I choose Stealth, with this skill, I could raise it to level 3 by spending 550 skill points. Along the way, I could act without being noticed by the monsters I encountered, making the journey easier. However, Holy Knight Canaria noticed me as usual, so it didn't have much meaning. If I choose Physical Enhancement, I can raise it to level 3 by spending 220 skill points. Unlike the previous skill, it only cost 220 points. Probably, the lower the rarity of the skill, the lower the skill points required for leveling up. Surprisingly easy to fight. Suddenly, while fighting the monsters along the way, I get that impression. When I chose Acceleration, I could defeat enemies by moving quickly, but it consumed a lot of stamina, and I couldn't use it repeatedly. On the other hand, Physical Enhancement seemed to enhance all physical abilities, making it much easier to fight. Well, I still lost to Holy Knight Canaria. However, the significant gain was realizing that Physical Enhancement made fighting so much easier. If I choose Strength Enhancement, the synthesis conditions have been met. The moment I chose Strength Enhancement, in front of the treasure chest, an unexpected message appeared, and I was surprised. Swordsmanship plus Strength Enhancement can be combined into Swordsmanship Greatsword Close Angle Bracket. Skill points required for synthesis, 610 points. With this message, I finally understood the meaning of synthesis. It seems that you can combine two skills into one. What might be the advantage of combining skills? For example, since one person can only have up to 5 skills, combining them could create a new skill slot. Well, it doesn't seem to have any disadvantages, so let's give it a try. So, without further ado, I paid the necessary skill points and acquired the new skill, Swordsmanship Greatsword. It's incredibly easy to move. After trying to fight the armored bugbears following the skill acquisition, I felt that way. I thought that having Swordsmanship Greatsword in the name implied that it would only be effective if I had a greatsword, but that wasn't the case. It's because the sword I had suddenly felt unusually light. I feel like it's much easier to fight with it compared to the other skills I've chosen so far. However, I still lost to Holy Knight Canaria afterwards. If I choose endurance enhancement, the synthesis conditions have been met. Swordsmanship plus provocation plus endurance enhancement combine into Knight's skills. Skill points required for synthesis, 10 points. It seems that if I choose endurance enhancement, it transforms into a new skill called Knight's skills. It somehow seems stronger than Swordsmanship Greatsword, and this might be the optimal solution. It's more challenging to fight than I thought. After fighting with the armored bugbears, I felt that way. Why could that be? I pondered, and I arrived at the answer. It's because my movements have become sluggish. Now that I think about it, knights are often depicted as having heavy armor all over their bodies, which makes them seem difficult to move. Although I don't wear any armor myself, I still feel somewhat heavy. I've been consciously fighting by avoiding enemy attacks with agility, knowing that a single blow could be fatal since I don't have any protective gear. However, by choosing the skill, Knight's skills, I found myself forced into a completely opposite style of combat. Knight's skills is by no means a weak skill, but it just wasn't suited for me. In that state, I couldn't possibly win, and naturally, I lost to Holy Knight Canaria. If I choose agility enhancement, the synthesis conditions have been met. Open angle bracket. Swordsmanship plus provocation plus agility enhancement create thief's skills. Skill points required for synthesis, 10 points. It seems I can once again synthesize and obtain a new skill. Thief's skills, doesn't seem too strong, but well, let's give it a try. So, I synthesize the skills to acquire thief's skills, and face the numerous armored bugbears that appear when you open a treasure chest. Change came quickly. First, as a significant change, I began to feel that blazing sword was heavy. Thieves are supposed to primarily use short weapons with short reach, like daggers. Therefore, blazing sword, which is not a short weapon, doesn't seem to be a good fit. However, it's not to the extent that I can't fight, it just slightly restricts my movements. The other change became apparent when the armored bugbears attacked. I can see their movements clearly. This was something I hadn't experienced before. I could now predict the trajectory of the armored bugbears' attacks and anticipate their next moves. This allowed me to easily evade their attacks and aim for their weak spots to stab with my blade. Before I knew it, I had defeated all the armored bugbears. Yeah, this is the most responsive I've felt so far. Perhaps with this, I might be able to defeat Holy Knight Canaria. Chapter 74 Comrade. After acquiring the skill, Thief's skills, and passing through numerous armored bugbears, I dashed through the dungeon to the location of the hero Eligen. Hey, isn't that Kiska? Hero Eligen, upon spotting me, wore a cheerful expression. Hero, I'll guide you to where the Demon Lord is. Do you know where the Demon Lord is? Yes, I have a rough idea. Really? Then guide me right away. From there, I guided Hero Eligen to the location of the Demon Lord Zoga. Demon Lord Zoga, I've come to settle the score. HMPH, you noisy brat. I'm prepared to kill you even without being told. After witnessing their battle, I retraced my steps and headed back to the location of Holy Knight Canaria. By guiding Hero Eligen to the Demon Lord's location, I ensured that Eligen wouldn't interrupt my battle and get killed by him in the midst of fighting. Now, I could focus on my battle with Holy Knight Canaria. I never thought the first human I'd encounter would be you. Holy Knight Canaria, upon spotting me, expressed her displeasure. How many times had I died since I started fighting her? I didn't remember the exact number, but it was probably around 130 times. Well, things were going quite smoothly, to the point where conditions couldn't be better. That's how well the new skill, Thief's skills, had become ingrained in my body. When I closed my eyes, memories of all the battles I had fought against Holy Knight Canaria replayed in my mind. I knew her fighting style and habits inside out. In this time frame, I had the confidence that I would absolutely defeat her. I'm glad Canaria-san is safe. I tried to deceive her. Don't let her realize that there's hostility from me. So, I look at her with my best smile. In fact, I've already joined forces with the hero Eligen. Really? When I mention the hero's name, Holy Knight Canaria's expression brightened slightly. I don't understand at all why someone planning to kill the hero would be happy about his safety. Yes, so I'll guide you to where the hero is. Oh, please do. While saying that, she approaches me. 1 step, 2 steps, she advances. 3 steps, 4 steps, 5 steps, getting this close should be enough. Hey, what's wrong? She looks at me suspiciously as I still haven't started walking. No, I was actually waiting. Yes, I was waiting. I was waiting for her to come close enough for me to kill her with certainty. A few seconds later, I grip the hilt of blazing sword and draw the sword from its sheath. Ah, in response to my sudden hostility, she grips her sword with surprise. However, my blade was already in the process of slashing her neck. Blood sprays as I strike. I don't know what kind of skills Holy Knight Canaria possesses, but given her role as a Holy Knight, she undoubtedly has enhanced durability to some extent. People with enhanced durability are less likely to suffer fatal wounds even when attacked. Despite attacking a human's critical weak point, the neck, she was still alive. Yuu. She becomes enraged and swings her sword forcefully. I attempt to parry her attack with my sword, but I fail, getting thrown backward. Hey, what are you trying to do? She appears angry, but in reality, she is handling the battle calmly. This is because she secretly applies healing magic to her neck while talking to me. Attacking me to knock me back was likely a way to buy time until she could heal. If that's the case, there's only one thing to do. I must strike her immediately. Hey, Canaria. I speak with a confident smile. What? She frowns as she looks at me. Perhaps she finds me creepy. Why would the leader of Chaosism, you belong to cooperate with the Demon Lord? You seem just like one of the Demon Lord's subordinates. You dare insult my master. All right, provocation was successful. Though provocation had been incorporated into thief's skills, through skill synthesis, it was still usable. I thought that insulting her master might make her angry, and it seems that it hit the mark. As evidence, she stopped her ongoing healing magic, dropped the sword she was holding, and Black Blade, she said, and Black Blade was one of the parasitic sword puppeteer's forms. It seems it gives its all from the beginning. Die, she yelled and rushed at me while gripping Black Blade. However, thanks to provocation, her attacks were incredibly sloppy. So, evading her attacks was quite simple. Ah, she let out a groan. I had dodged her attack and slashed her in the side with my sword. Of course, I didn't forget to follow up. I attacked her multiple times, repeatedly dodging her attacks and landing my own. I had already completely read her attack patterns. So, there was practically no chance her attacks would land. It's over. While saying that, I pierced her legs with my sword while she lay on the ground. In an instant, I was certain of my victory. Holy Knight Canaria glared at me while gritting her teeth. However, she wouldn't be able to get up anymore. Found it. This is the ring. When I pulled the pendant hanging from her neck, I found the ring required to resurrect the Demon Lord. You, that is. She reached out in a panic. I brushed her hand away. Sorry, but I'll be taking this ring. With this, I could prevent the resurrection of the Demon Lord. And thus, the world was saved. Hey, what exactly is going on here? It was the voice of a third party. When I turned around, I saw the dwarf warrior Gorgono wielding an axe. Due to not guiding Hero Eligen to the location of the Demon Lord Zoga previously, I had been interrupted in my battle, and the scene of being killed by Hero Eligen flashed back. This is bad. I had just met this newcomer a moment ago. Therefore, my trustworthiness was lower compared to Holy Knight Canaria. In this situation where I and Holy Knight Canaria were in opposition, if I thought normally, there was a high chance that she would be helped. I had managed to take the ring. Is there any way to escape this situation? This man has taken the Ring of Chaos. Holy Knight Canaria shouted. Ring of Chaos. Was she referring to the ring I took from her? I see, I understand the situation now. Warrior Gorgono said that and cast a cold gaze at me. Wait, why did Warrior Gorgono know about this ring? Ha ha ha, too bad. Listen up, Gorgono is also my comrade. You thought you had won by defeating me, but you were wrong. Silence, Canaria. Warrior Gorgono restrained Canaria's laughter. As for Canaria, she had stopped laughing abruptly. Seriously, it seems there was another traitor. Are you also a member of Chaosism? In response to my question, Warrior Gorgono neither confirmed nor denied it, he simply said this. Parasitic scythe puppeteer. In an instant, a large, black scythe appeared. The scythe had an unmistakably unnatural form with eyeballs and jaws growing all over it. Yay, it's battle time. Hooray, it's battle time. Hey, can we eat this guy? The jaws growing from the scythe spoke with their own voices. By all appearances, they were comrades of the puppeteer. Chapter 75 Puppeteer. In front of me stood the warrior Gorgono, wielding a black scythe. A puppeteer of parasitic scythes. Is this similar to a comrade of the parasitic sword puppeteer? If he's a companion of the Holy Knight Canaria, it wouldn't be surprising for him to wield similar parasitic weapons, would it? I'm in a bind. Having that ring stolen is quite troublesome. It could disrupt our plans. And by plans, you mean resurrecting the demon lord. You seem to know quite a lot. You should be more cautious. Saying that, Gorgono picked up the parasitic scythe puppeteer. It seems there's no choice but to fight. My stamina has been considerably drained from the battle with Holy Knight Canaria, but I can still fight. So, there's a good chance I can win. Puppeteer, let's give it our all from the start. Yes. Okay, master. Hey, it's no fun if you go all out. Shut up and obey, puppeteer. After a peculiar exchange between Gorgono and the puppeteer, Gorgono said the following. Resilient 3-Jada Z Dahaka. In an instant, the puppeteer transformed into a grotesque entity with 3 heads. I recalled the third form of the parasitic sword puppeteer, the ruthless predator. The entity before me greatly resembled the ruthless predator. Oh, I realized it a moment too late. The parasitic scythe puppeteer had extended large tentacles to launch an attack, and I couldn't even perceive the attack. Before I knew it, I was rolling on the ground. This one is weak, huh? Very weak. Not much of a challenge. When I looked up, multiple jaws on the parasitic scythe puppeteer were chattering. Hey, don't talk too much, said Warrior Gorgono, and the puppeteer replied. Yes, we'll be careful. With this bizarre scene before me, I was momentarily captivated. Do I have to defeat this? Anxiety surged within me, but I couldn't afford to stand still. So I bolstered myself and took up my sword to face the challenge. A moo. Suddenly, I heard a voice. When I realized it was the voice of the parasitic scythe puppeteer, my right arm, sword and all, had already been devoured. Aga! The excruciating pain made me scream. What just happened? I looked in bewilderment at the blood pouring from my severed right arm. Hey, is it delicious? Yeah, it's really tough, I wonder why. Maybe because we ate the sword too. Lucky. I want to eat it too. The parasitic scythe puppeteer carried on a seemingly cheerful conversation using its 3 mouths. Well then, let's have the rest. Saying this, the parasitic scythe puppeteer approached me. Please, stop. I had already lost the will to fight. After all, I had lost my weapon and my right hand completely. There was no chance of winning. I was certain that I would be brutally killed shortly. Bon appetit. The parasitic scythe puppeteer opened its large mouth and displayed sharp fangs. Stop it, puppeteer. Upon hearing such a voice, the movements of the parasitic scythe puppeteer came to a halt. Why can't we eat him? We're hungry. Listen to me. Warrior Gorgono warned them sternly. I guess we have no choice. You're so stingy. In compliance with Gorgono's command, the parasitic scythe puppeteer reluctantly withdrew. Hey, Gorgono, why did you stop killing him? It was the Holy Knight Canaria who spoke. Canaria, this one might have the potential to be a hero's apostle. Nonsense. There's no way that could be true. Listen, in order to fulfill the Lord's desires, we must consider all possibilities. A hero's apostle. What's that? I wondered as I listened to their conversation. Hey, who are you? Warrior Gorgono grabbed me by the collar and lifted me, asking the question. What should I say? I'm Kiska, but, troubled, I merely spoke my name. TCH, seems like you're not going to answer properly. Saying this, Warrior Gorgono threw me away. The impact made me cough up blood, and I felt my consciousness slipping. If you were really a hero's apostle, killing you might be more troublesome. What are they talking about? I thought so, but I didn't have the strength to speak. That's why I'll seal you away. The The moment I heard those words, my consciousness faded to black. Chapter 76 Boredom. Where am I, is this? As I opened my eyes, I thought such things. An unfamiliar scene spread out before my eyes. That being said, there wasn't anything particularly noteworthy about the scene. It was just an endless void. There was neither sky nor earth, and the horizon, of course, did not exist. I've seen a similar scene in the past. When Black Agatha reset the world, it felt like everything had perished. I remember speaking to a person who claimed to be an observer at that time, and after that, I traveled back 100 years to save the world. But this time, the situation is different. In the first place, why did this happen? Right. I remember, the warrior Gorgono was talking about how a seal worked. Most likely, I was sealed by him. I don't really understand what a seal is, but the first thing that comes to mind is Agatha. I've saved Agatha when she was sealed inside the Katarov dungeon. I don't know if the seal on Agatha and the one on me are the same, but the possibility seems quite high. But why would they go through the trouble of sealing me? I recall the words of Gorgono, the warrior, if you're the apostle of the hero, killing you might lead to more trouble. From those words, it seems he knew about my ability to return from death. So, instead of killing me, he chose to seal me. Certainly, if I'm sealed, I won't return from death. If this hypothesis is correct, it's going to be a major problem. In the future, I might need to take some measures if something happens. However, no matter how much I think about it, it doesn't change anything. For now, I need to figure out how to get out of this situation. Thinking that, I tried to take a step, but I realized I couldn't take a single step. In fact, I couldn't even move my hands, speak, or blink. I couldn't make the slightest movement in my body. Only my consciousness remained. What should I do? The moment I realized I couldn't do anything, anxiety welled up within me. What can I do in this situation? Is there anyone here? I wanted to shout, but I couldn't even move my mouth. Will I be trapped in this world of nothingness forever? Only then did I finally feel fear. From now on, an unbearable boredom will continue for eternity. I wonder how much time has passed since I was sealed. There's no sun or clock here, so I have no idea how much time has gone by. It's just been an endless stretch of emptiness. I didn't know that being completely unable to do anything would be this agonizing. It's so boring. In my boredom, I decided to recall the story my mother used to tell me. It's the story of the first hero and the demon lord. This world is said to have been created at the same time a demon god awoke. The name of that being is Diascote, the demon god. In Diascote's world, there was nothing but darkness. It seemed like darkness would rule the world for eternity. However, a god visited this world. Puthos, the supreme god. Puthos normally resided in a higher dimensional world separate from this one. In fact, even Diascote was just a creation of Puthos. Puthos looked at the empty world and lamented, and from that, a single drop of light was born. That light illuminated the world. From there, Puthos created the spirits of fire, water, wind, and earth and had them create the world as we know it today, with features like land, air, and sea. Finally, Puthos breathed souls into living beings, including plants, animals, humans, and elves, bringing forth life. The world flourished as a result, but there was someone who envied it. That someone was Diascote, the demon god. Diascote began by introducing death and disease into the world. Even then, the world persisted, so Diascote created monsters and dungeons, attempting to bring about the downfall of humanity. In response, Puthos granted skills to the human race. Thanks to those bestowed with skills, the monsters were defeated, and Diascote had to resort to his next plan. That plan involved an invasion by a demon lord and his demon underlings. The sudden appearance of the demon lord put the human race in peril. Just when it seemed like they were in dire straits, a savior appeared. That savior was none other than the first hero. The hero is a being blessed by the supreme god, Puthos, and with that power, they vanquish the demon lord. However, the demon god, Diascote, didn't give up. Time and again, a demon lord would manifest in this world, and a hero would appear to defeat that demon lord. In this way, from ancient times to the present, the battle between the demon lord and the hero has continued. That's the story I heard from my mother. It seems there are more tales of the first hero's exploits, but this is all my mother ever told me. So, I don't know what kind of deeds the first hero accomplished. While I was lost in these thoughts, some time passed. In this empty world, pondering is the only thing that keeps my mind at ease. How much time has passed since I was sealed? Boredom. It's so boring that it feels like my mind is about to break. Isn't there something to fill my mind? Ah, I know, let's do some math. I grew up as a farmer and didn't receive a proper education, but my mother did teach me the basics of writing and counting. I remember, 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. 8 plus 8 is 16. 16 plus 16 is 32. 32 plus 32 is 64. 64 plus 64 is 128. 128 plus 128 is 256. 256 plus 256 is 512. 512 plus 512 is 1024. 1024 plus 1024 is 2048. 213,901,312 plus 213,901,312 is 427,802,624. Ah, how many more numbers do I have to count before I'm liberated from this torment? How much time has passed since I was sealed? I feel like I've been enduring an endless, incalculable amount of time. It wouldn't be surprising if it had been over 100 years. Whenever I look, there's nothing but darkness in front of me. I don't get hungry, and I don't get sleepy. It's just an eternal, boring time. Extreme boredom is so painful. Oh, it's so boring. I wish I could just die. If I die, I can finally rest peacefully. How wonderful that would be. So, I want to die. I want to die, I want to die, I want to die, I want to die. Please, someone, kill me. Ah, there's light. There was no warning whatsoever. It happened just when I thought I would spend another boring day. Right in front of me, light appeared. Light, followed by a sound like breaking glass a few seconds later. It was the first change in this world of nothingness. Before I knew it, the scene in front of my eyes shattered like breaking out of a shell. Oh, I've finally managed to break the seal's barrier, a voice I recognized said. The long-lost air of the outside world enveloped my entire body. Judite. Yes, the one in front of me was the vampire Judite. She was the one who saved me from the barrier. Tears welled up in my eyes, tears of joy. She had saved me from despair. Forgive me for immediately asking this after releasing the seal, but would you mind dying? You're quite an inconvenience being there, I heard her say. The moment her voice reached me, I heard the sound of blood splattering. It seemed I was about to be killed by her. Perhaps she didn't release the seal to save me, but merely to get rid of me since I was an interference to her, as she made the dungeon her home. However, that fact didn't change that she had saved me. After all, I could start over if I died. Not being able to die was much more painful. Thank you, Judite. I love you. So, I expressed my gratitude. She would probably wear an unpleasant expression, but before I could confirm that, my consciousness faded away. Chapter 77 Feeling uncomfortable. I'm back. While opening my eyes, I looked around. I was in a dungeon that looked familiar. It seems the point where I return after dying hasn't changed. But I had quite a tough experience. I didn't expect to be sealed instead of being killed. Indeed, with a seal, there's no death and return. Do they even know about resurrection? Such suspicion arises. Holy Knight Canaria and Warrior Gorgono. It seems both of them are members of a mysterious organization called Chaosism. If that organization knows about resurrection, it's going to be very troublesome. Once again being sealed would likely shatter my psyche. I don't want to experience something like that again. However, there might be a way to prepare for it. If I'm about to be sealed, I can just take my own life beforehand. If I commit suicide, I can return from death. I don't know the exact process of sealing, but taking my own life is likely faster. So, there's no need to worry about sealing. What I need to do is prevent the resurrection of the demon lord, right? It's taking me some time to remember due to being sealed for so long. The enemies are the two, Holy Knight Canaria and Warrior Gorgono. But I shouldn't assume that they are the only enemies, there might be others lurking. That hooded man, Noct, looks suspicious as well. For now, to prevent the resurrection of the Demon Lord, I'll have to deal with these two. Can I do it? In the previous timeline, I couldn't even compete with Warrior Gorgono and his parasitic scythe puppeteer. No matter how many times I tried, I couldn't envision a scenario where I would win. Honestly, I'm anxious, but that's not a reason to stop. So, I must keep moving forward. Once again, I decided to confront Holy Knight Canaria, following the same timeline as before. I chose to acquire the skill, Agility Enhancement, and then combined it to create the skill, Thief's Skills. After that, I guided the hero to the location of the Demon Lord and then headed to where Holy Knight Canaria should have been. Hey, I thought you'd show up here. Normally, Holy Knight Canaria should have been here. Why is Warrior Gorgono here? It seems you really came. Canaria, did you suspect him? It's unavoidable. The likelihood of this seemingly ordinary guy turning out to be our enemy is high. Next to Warrior Gorgono was Holy Knight Canaria. Wait, I can't grasp the situation. In this timeline, I haven't attacked them yet. So, why do they perceive me as an enemy? When I return after death, everything should go back to the way it was, right? So why have their actions changed? This guy's scent. It's a dangerous scent. Be careful, master. High-pitched voices echoed. It was only a few seconds later that I realized those voices were produced by the parasitic scythe puppeteer of Warrior Gorgono. You're making a strange face. Warrior Gorgono asks while looking at my face. These guys told me to be careful with you. Does that mean that the parasitic scythe puppeteer, who fought me in a previous timeline, told Warrior Gorgono about our battle? Could it be that the puppeteer has the ability to recognize different timelines? Could such a ridiculous thing really be true? I asked myself and suddenly remembered. Come to think of it, the parasitic puppeteer sometimes behaved differently in other timelines. For instance, in that timeline, a parasitic puppeteer I had just met said to me, why is that? I feel like I've met you somewhere before. So, it wouldn't be surprising if the parasitic scythe puppeteer also had the ability to grasp information about different timelines. With that conclusion in mind, I couldn't help but shiver. Maybe I'm dealing with a much more troublesome adversary than I had imagined. What's wrong? Have you suddenly become afraid of us? Seeing me in a daze, Warrior Gorgono blurts out. Gorgono, isn't there a need to wait for the enemy's attack? Let's just kill him right now. Wait, killing is not an option. He might be the hero's apostle. What do you mean? The two of them start discussing me without my input. Once again, it's clear that they are not to be taken lightly. Damn it. In a rush to attack before any plans were settled, I screamed and thrust my sword. It's not that impressive. At some point, Warrior Gorgono had appeared behind me. How did he? Just as I thought that, a sharp, piercing pain surged throughout my body. It seemed that in an instant, Warrior Gorgono had sliced me up with his scythe. This is bad, at this rate, I'll be sealed away. Before that, due to being sliced up, I couldn't move my right arm, and at the end of it was the tip of the blazing sword. With all my might, I lunged toward that tip. There was a crunching sound as my neck was impaled. I somehow managed to die. I made it back safely. I felt relief upon realizing that I had returned from death, along with an indescribable sense of exhaustion coursing through my entire body. But it's impossible, isn't it? I thought about such things. I had been challenging the Holy Knight Canaria to prevent the Demon Lord's resurrection. Holy Knight Canaria was formidable. But I believed that I could win with effort, so I kept challenging her without giving up. However, the situation had changed. From now on, I had to fight against Warrior Gorgono. Warrior Gorgono's strength was on another level. The secret to his strength lay in the parasitic scythe puppeteer he wielded. Holy Knight Canaria also used a parasitic puppeteer, but she didn't seem to master it. Honestly, I was better at using the puppeteer. On the other hand, it appeared that Warrior Gorgono could fully unleash the power of the parasitic scythe puppeteer. Could I really defeat someone like Warrior Gorgono? I guess it's impossible after all. Perhaps no matter how many times I tried, I wouldn't feel confident about winning. There was a significant difference in power between me and Warrior Gorgono. It seems like I need to find another way. My goal wasn't just to defeat them. It was to prevent the resurrection of the Demon Lord and save the world from destruction. So, I needed to think. Think of other ways. There had to be some untried method somewhere. Chapter 78 Respect. I died many times. Each time I died, time would loop. With each loop, time within me continued to pass. As a result, the past when Namiya was killed and I was exiled to the depths of the dungeon seems like a distant memory. At first, I was driven to seek revenge against the villagers who had scorned me. After successfully conquering the dungeon, I had achieved satisfactory vengeance against the villagers. But it was unsatisfying that the puppeteer couldn't become human, and that's why I took my own life. This wasn't the future I had sought. So, I decided to start over. I sought a way to turn the puppeteer into a human and made contact with Agatha. However, Agatha had lost her memory. So, in order to restore her memory, we acted together. After a lot of effort, the moment we defeated the dungeon's boss, another Agatha, Black Agatha, attacked us. After screaming, she used reset to destroy the world. Following that, due to the mysterious entity known as the Observer, I was sent back 100 years before the world's destruction. Yet, no matter where I searched in the world of 100 years ago, I couldn't find Agatha. Furthermore, the world would still be destroyed by the manipulation of the chaosism by the resurrected Demon Lord. Therefore, it falls on me to prevent the world's destruction by my own hands, but I've come to quite a distant place. Suddenly, I find myself thinking that I've drifted far from my initial goal. To be honest, when the Observer told me to save the world, I didn't expect it to be this challenging. I believed that if I could meet Agatha, she could save the world with her powers. However, once I arrived 100 years in the past, I had no idea where Agatha was, and I had to confront Warrior Gorgono and Holy Knight Canaria to prevent the Demon Lord's resurrection. The situation changed rapidly, and various motives became intertwined, making it difficult to unravel. I haven't forgotten about the puppeteer. I'm concerned about Agatha and even the vampire Judite. Perhaps Judite can manage without me, but that doesn't mean I'm not worried. What about the desire for revenge? I was able to exact revenge once, but that timeline disappeared due to my return from death. If someone were to ask whether I still have a desire for revenge, it's hard to say. I may not have the same burning desire for revenge as before. There are things I want to accomplish beyond revenge. There are many things I want to achieve. However, I need to stop the Demon Lord Zoga before anything else. Shall I try to trust Hero Eligen more? Having realized that I couldn't defeat Warrior Gorgono, I was forced to search for an alternative approach. Hero Eligen possesses the power to defeat Demon Lord Zoga. If I could guide him to avoid being killed by Holy Knight Canaria, even if the Demon Lord were to resurrect, Hero Eligen could once again subdue him. It's worth a try. With that decision in mind, I rushed through the dungeon to achieve my goal. I acquired the skill, Agility Enhancement, and synthesized skills to obtain, Thief's skills. Then, I made contact with Hero Eligen and guided him to the location where Demon Lord Zoga was. If I could witness Hero Eligen defeating Demon Lord Zoga, I would talk to him to execute a new strategy. Hero, there's something I'd like to discuss. Kiska, what's with the solemn face? I had to talk to Hero Eligen before Holy Knight Canaria arrived. So, if I had advice to offer, it had to be now. Well, there's a traitor among your companions. Huh. Hero Eligen tilted his head at my words. Who is this traitor? It's Holy Knight Canaria and Warrior Gorgono. They're conspiring to assassinate you, Hero. I had delivered the message. Now Hero Eligen would be wary of them. If that were the case, he shouldn't easily kill me. I heard the sound of the wind being cut. Unbeknownst to me, Hero Eligen had his sword at my neck. Hey, what do you mean by insulting my comrades? His voice wasn't the usual cheerful tone but a deep, menacing one. Listen, Kiska, I won't stand for anyone insulting my comrades. Saying that Holy Knight Canaria is going to betray me. Quit making a fool of yourself. Holy Knight Canaria is a knight who served in the royal palace since my childhood. So, she's the person I trust the most. Unlike Holy Knight Canaria, I met Warrior Gorgono after I was chosen as the hero, but he has fought alongside me all this time. As evidence, he achieved great deeds in the recent war against the Demon Lord's army. Those two, as traitors. I won't accept it, even as a joke. Hero Elijin's eyes were filled with anger as he spoke. Calm down. It was clear to me that the hero would get angry in this manner. From Hero Elijin's perspective, I was just someone he had met a short while ago, with an unknown background. He wouldn't easily trust my words. However, that didn't mean I intended to back down here. Hero, I have the power to see the future. Huh, that's why I know. I can see the two of them betraying you. I can stake my life on these words. So, if the innocence of the two is proven, you can execute me without any hesitation. Hero Elijin squinted his eyes slightly in response to my words. I hoped he would consider that my words had some merit. So, I have a request, Hero. Please always be cautious of those two. We don't know when they might turn their blades against you. After that, there was a moment of silence. It seemed like Hero Elijin was struggling to figure out how to interpret my words. You mentioned having the power to see the future. Can you prove it right here, right now? I had increased my persuasiveness, even though I had lied about having the ability to see the future, but it wasn't entirely untrue. After all, I had seen the future many times ahead. Well, Hero, you've already witnessed my power with your own eyes. What do you mean? You see, I guided you to this very place. I knew the location of Demon Lord Zoga, so I could lead you here. As soon as I said that, I didn't miss the moment when Hero Elijin's eyes widened. Why would they betray me? The two of them, I mean. It seems like they are part of a cult called the Chaosism. I believe it's the organization's intent to try to kill you, Hero. Upon hearing this, he muttered quietly, come to think of it, Canaria brought Gorgono here. Do you happen to know anything else about this Chaosism or their goals? The organization's goal is to resurrect the Demon Lord and lead the world to destruction. Holy Knight Canaria is in possession of a ring that can resurrect the Demon Lord. After delivering this information, there was another period of silence. He was probably contemplating whether to trust my words. Is there any falsehood in the words you staked your life on? No, I see. Hero Elijin nodded and sheathed the sword he had pointed at me, saying, I won't place full trust in you, but I will respect your words when you said you would stake your life on them. Well done. Internally, I couldn't help but smile at Hero Elijin's words. This time, I might be able to avoid tragedy. Chapter 79 Unpredictable. After offering my advice to Hero Elijin, some time passed, and Holy Knight Canaria and Warrior Gorgono arrived. In previous timelines, only Holy Knight Canaria had come to this location alone, but this time, both of them arrived together. The change in the future must have been due to Warrior Gorgono's increased wariness of me through the parasitic scythe puppeteer. Your Highness, we apologize for the delay. We're sorry for not being by your side during this crucial moment. Both of you, great job. Canaria, there's no need to apologize. We've successfully defeated the Demon Lord. What? Is the Demon Lord already defeated? You've taken all the credit, Hero. Warrior Gorgono's laughter echoed. The content of their conversation seemed ordinary, and it appeared that neither of them had hostile intentions in front of the hero. It would be best if things continued this way, although I knew that such a peaceful outcome was unlikely. Phew, I finally made it. I thought I was going to die. Quote. After a while, Elf Niao and the hooded man knocked arrived. Their actions were no different from the previous timeline, but in reality, I couldn't determine if these two were friends or foes. In any case, with everyone gathered, we used Niao's teleportation magic to return outside the dungeon. Then, we were welcomed by the villagers of Katarov and a celebration was held in honor of our victory over the Demon Lord, just as it had unfolded in the previous timeline. Hey, Kiska, are you enjoying yourself? As I sat in a chair in the square where the celebration was taking place, Hero Elijin approached me and spoke. No, I'm not enjoying myself. I'm constantly on alert. I chose not to participate in the celebration and instead kept Hero Elijin in my line of sight, remaining vigilant. Honestly, I thought you were overthinking it. I spoke to them, but there wasn't any difference from their usual selves. Hero, my future predictions are always accurate. I see. Well, when the time comes, please protect me. Of course, that's my intention, but honestly, Hero Eligen was much stronger than me. I didn't think I needed to protect him. Canaria is my most trusted subordinate. If she were truly a traitor, I'd be in shock, and I wouldn't be able to focus on fighting. I see. Indeed, in that case, it might be necessary for me to protect the hero. However, I still believe that your future predictions might be wrong. So, relax and enjoy the celebration. With those words, Hero Eligen left for another place. After all, he's a hero, and he probably has many other people to talk to. Hey, buddy, mind if I sit next to you? After being alone for a while, I was approached once again. As I looked at the person who had approached me, my heart began to race. The reason was that the person who had approached me was none other than Warrior Gorgono. Without waiting for my response, Warrior Gorgono took a seat right next to me. What's your intention? Not understanding his motives, I questioned him. Don't be so wary. I don't intend to fight here. Saying this, he brought the tankard in his hand to his lips and downed the drink in one go. Hey, buddy, who are you exactly? Warrior Gorgono asked such a question. I'm Adventurer Kiska. I don't want to hear that kind of stuff, Gorgono replied with an irritated click of his tongue. Well, I don't know, I replied. In response, Gorgono clicked his tongue again. You see, we have been planning meticulously and executing carefully for years, even decades. Finally, as our plan is approaching its final stages, suddenly, an irregular like you inserted yourself into our midst. You're quite open about sharing various information, I replied sarcastically. Gorgono sniffed unhappily and continued, well, fine. The world is full of things we don't understand. You were just one of them. As he spoke, Gorgono took another sip of his drink. But you know, we won't give up. No matter how cunningly you all try to obstruct our path, he declared, as if they were the champions of justice. Why are you doing this? I asked, puzzled. We're doing it because the master desires it. Who is this, master? As I asked this, I recalled that Holy Knight Canaria had also mentioned the existence of a master in a different timeline. So, who is this master, exactly? The name of the master is a privilege only for the members of the organization to know. I won't tell you. What if I said I want to join your group? Idiot, there's no way I'd believe that. You were already considered an enemy by the organization. Well, it wouldn't be that easy. But I'll tell you one thing. The final battle is tomorrow. So, sleep well tonight and prepare for tomorrow. With those words, Gorgono stood up, headed somewhere to get more drinks, and left. Why are you here? Holy Knight Canaria asked, standing in front of Hero Eligen's room. No, why are you here in front of Hiro-sama's room? I replied. I need to discuss tomorrow's plans with His Highness. Now, answer my question. Why are you here? What should I answer? Is Holy Knight Canaria trying to enter Hero Eligen's room to assassinate him? Or is she genuinely here to discuss tomorrow's plans? What does she think of me? Most likely, she, like Warrior Gorgono, considers me an enemy, but I'm not entirely sure. I also have matters to discuss with Hiro-sama, I replied. What matters are those? Holy Knight Canaria inquired. I don't think I'm obliged to answer you, I said. I also have a role in protecting the hero. It's only natural that I remain cautious about anyone approaching the hero. What she was saying made sense, but I had my own reasons for not backing down. How could I navigate this situation? As I contemplated my options, the door creaked open. What are you both doing in front of the door? Hero Eligen appeared, questioning our presence. Forgive the disturbance, Your Highness, I said, taken aback by his sudden appearance. I had some important matters to discuss regarding tomorrow's plans, and I was about to visit Your Highness's room. I also came to discuss an important matter with Hiro-sama, I added. I see. Well, both of you, come inside, Hero Eligen readily agreed. Your Highness, I believe inviting him into Your Highness's room might be unwise. I don't trust him as a reliable individual, Canaria suggested, attempting to distance me from Hero Eligen. This was problematic. If Hiro-sama heeded Kanaria's advice, I wouldn't be able to serve as his guard. Kanaria, I've given my permission. Hiro Iligen's words carried an undeniable weight, as if he allowed no room for dissent. I may have overstepped, Kanaria realized, quickly retracting her objection. With that, I was able to enter the room with Holy Knight Kanaria. The future was uncertain, but perhaps I could protect Hiro Iligen from whatever might unfold. Chapter 80 Escort. When I entered the room, Holy Knight Kanaria and Hiro Iligen had started discussing something. The topic of their discussion was related to the arrangements for their journey to the royal capital tomorrow. It seemed that Holy Knight Kanaria's claim that she had something to discuss with His Highness outside the room was not entirely false. In the midst of this, I was observing their behavior with a sense of unease. It wouldn't be surprising if Holy Knight Kanaria were to attack at any moment. Therefore, I was carefully watching her every move for any suspicious actions. So far, there had been no signs of any suspicious behavior. I'm done, Holy Knight Kanaria said, bringing the discussion to a close without me realizing it. Next, it's Kiska's turn, Hiro Iligen said, looking at me. Now that I think about it, I had claimed to have a matter to discuss when I entered this room. Therefore, I would have to speak. I came here because I wanted to guard Hiro-sama. I can't assert that there's no possibility of someone attacking Hiro-sama while he's asleep. Certainly, it was careless to sleep alone in this room. Hiro Iligen nodded in agreement. Your Highness, if it's about guarding, please let me take on that role. Or does Your Highness intend to trust an adventurer with an unknown background more than me? Holy Knight Kanaria raised her voice in protest. It's true that she is undoubtedly more trusted than me. However, if she were to take on the role of guarding, my entire plan would go down the drain. I see. In that case, you two can cooperate and guard me. With two of you, you can take turns sleeping. Yes, that's the most efficient way. Hiro Iligen came to that conclusion. It seemed that Holy Knight Kanaria and I would be the ones guarding Hiro Iligen. In the end, Hiro Iligen went to bed as usual. Holy Knight Kanaria and I, who were tasked with guarding him, sat in chairs, monitoring the situation. Since we didn't talk to each other, it was a time of pure silence. I kept wondering if she intended to assassinate him while he slept, or if the assassination would take place tomorrow, and this was just a waiting period. With the opponent's true intentions unknown, I had to stay vigilant and be prepared for any possibility. But honestly, it was exhausting. As time passed, I began to feel more and more fatigued. Thanks to that, sleepiness started to creep in. However, I couldn't afford to sleep. So, I rubbed my eyes and glanced at Holy Knight Kanaria. How was she doing? Was she feeling sleepy like I was? Thinking that, I looked in her direction. Wait, what? Is that even possible? I couldn't help but doubt my eyes. But I checked again, and it was indeed true. The reason for my surprise was that Holy Knight Kanaria was asleep in her chair, even making soft snoring sounds. Seriously, can a person who took on the responsibility of guarding just abandon it to sleep? Well, Hiro Iligen did mention taking shifts. Is she practicing that? Even so, it wouldn't hurt to communicate a little. It seemed as if she knew for sure that the hero wouldn't be attacked tonight, which raised questions about her actions coming to guard the hero in his room. With that in mind, a wave of exhaustion hit me, and I, too, began to feel sleepy. I heard a loud noise. In an instant, I woke up. It seems I had fallen asleep. I felt ashamed of that, but more importantly, I needed to check on Hiro Iligen's safety and Holy Knight Kanaria's actions. They both seemed fine. Hiro Iligen was asleep in his bed, and Holy Knight Kanaria was still napping in her chair. Then, what was the noise that woke me up? What was the source? Hey! Suddenly, I was spoken to from behind, causing a shiver down my spine. How are you feeling? The one who spoke was Warrior Gorgono. It turned out the noise I heard earlier was him entering the room. I thought the room was locked, but he had somehow managed to break in. What do you want? I wanted to have a little chat with you. What's the topic? It's not the kind of conversation we should have here. Step outside the room for a moment. I have no intention of leaving this spot. HMPH, I see. He muttered with annoyance and continued. Kanaria, change of plans. Let's go with a direct approach. As warrior Gorgono shouted this, he activated the parasitic scythe puppeteer. I tried to intercept it with my blazing sword, but I couldn't stop its power, and my body crashed into the wall. But there was something more important to worry about. Right after warrior Gorgono called out, Holy Knight Canaria, who had appeared to be sleeping, suddenly leapt up and swung her sword towards Hero Eligen. Hey, we're in real danger here, I shouted, panicked. Normally, I would use polite language when talking to the hero, but in this emergency situation, it didn't matter. TCH, missed. Holy Knight Canaria muttered. She had her sword poised as if to thrust it into the bed, with Hero Eligen's head as the target. Canaria, what's the meaning of this? Please, explain yourself. There might be a significant misunderstanding here. Despite having a sword pointed at him, Hero Eligen responded calmly with a confident smile. In contrast, Holy Knight Canaria spoke. No negotiations. She swung her sword forcefully. From her perspective, a slight movement of the sword could decapitate the hero. So, it seemed like the hero would undoubtedly be killed. At least, that's what I thought. Gah! The groan came from Holy Knight Canaria. Her body had forcefully crashed into the wall. You really underestimated me, the hero said as he picked up his sword. He was still alive. Chapter 81 Fighting Spirit. I can't believe you were really a traitor, said Hero Eligen as he took up his sword and cast a cold gaze. In front of that gaze was Holy Knight Canaria, who was struggling to get up. It was probably the aftermath of being thrown by the hero a while ago. She had difficulty standing. So, Canaria, what kind of explanation do you have for this? No explanations needed. Not satisfied. You have always been loyal to me, and I trusted you the most. Yet, you've turned your blade against me like this. There must be an extraordinary reason behind your actions. Please, let me hear your reasons. Saying this, Hero Eligen tried to approach her. Hey. In response, Holy Knight Canaria chuckled with a sly smile. Then, she answered with a smirk, Your Highness, I have never felt genuine loyalty toward you, not even once. If you've misunderstood it that way, then I must have been quite the actress. Hero Eligen frowned in displeasure at Canaria's response. Your Highness, at this point, let me honestly express my feelings. I've always absolutely despised you from the bottom of my heart. So, please just die quietly, said Holy Knight Canaria, and she swung her sword. However, Hero Eligen effortlessly countered her attack with a single strike. It seems I had no eye for people, he said and continued, Hey, don't you think you should be focusing on the fight instead of daydreaming? Suddenly, Warrior Gorgono raised his weapon and aimed it at me. Should I provide some assistance over there? While blocking Gorgono's attack with my sword, Gorgono asked. Judging from the situation, there was a clear disparity in power between Holy Knight Canaria and Hero Eligen. No matter how hard she tried, Canaria wouldn't be able to defeat Hero Eligen. However, if both Warrior Gorgono and Holy Knight Canaria worked together, there might be a slight possibility of defeating Hero Eligen. No need for that. But Gorgono continued his attacks on me. He seemed convinced that Holy Knight Canaria could defeat Hero Eligen on her own. Well, whatever. While I kept Gorgono occupied, Hero Eligen could take down Holy Knight Canaria, and then the two of us could deal with Gorgono. That would secure our victory. So, were you saying that everything you've done for me was a lie? Yes, it was all a lie. Hero Eligen and Holy Knight Canaria continued their battle, arguing with each other. So, why have you been serving me until now? It's for this day. I've been enduring and enduring, all for the sake of killing you today. Is it because you hated me that much? Ha, that's right. I absolutely despise you. Why do you hate me so much? If you're so curious, I'll tell you. Suddenly, Holy Knight Canaria spoke in a cold tone. I'm the survivor of Luna Village. Hero Eligen uttered a bewildered voice. Luna Village. It was an unfamiliar term, and he tilted his head in confusion. If your perceptive highness is clever, you should already understand. Do you see how much I hate you? It's not true. You're the second daughter of the Glissus Count family, aren't you? No, to be precise, I'm an illegitimate child of the Glissus Count family. I'm the child born out of wedlock with one of their lovers. Because of such circumstances, I was entrusted to the loving parents in Luna Village at a young age. I owe them a great deal, and even now, I consider them to be my true parents. No, you never mentioned any of this until now. Well, I can't talk about it. If I did, it would ruin the whole plan. No, it's different. I was just a child at that time. I was just being used, I didn't know anything. Yes, I know your highness was just used. However, it's a trivial issue. The fact remains that my family was killed by your hands. No, it's not. Hero Eligen's behavior became clearly disturbed. Whether it was due to a loss of fighting spirit, stopping his sword swings, or his listless appearance as he hung his head. Hey, you're going to get killed. Your voice won't reach him anymore. In response to my call, Warrior Gorgono grinned. This is bad. Hero Eligen, in his current condition, it's just a matter of time before he's killed. I have to do something about it. So, your highness, please die quietly. Hiss, the sound of the wind being cut was heard. At the same time, blood sprayed high into the air. Clang, Hero Eligen's sword fell to the ground. We did it. We did it, Gorgono. We finally killed him. It's about time, finally, we did it. Yes, I was able to kill your highness. Hey, Canaria, save the celebration for later. Now we have to deal with this guy. The hero had been killed. There was no way to reverse this situation anymore. Because I couldn't face these two by myself. Like in the previous timeline, I would be sealed. Damn it, he's determined to die. I could hear Warrior Gorgono's voice. At the same moment, I severed my own neck.